Okay, so I'm David. My Twitter handle is Discord Spies. I've also got a YouTube channel that I've renamed to Discord Spies, but I haven't posted on there in almost 2 years now. So, really, I'm of a lefty shit poster. Used to troll alt writers and like infiltrate the Discord groups and screenshot shit they were doing in there. But now I'm just sort of like a basic bitch sock dem who also talks about men's issues, which is interesting, I think.
Yeah, definitely. It is a bit different because in lefty spaces, you don't really see many people speaking about or focusing on that particular area of society, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So let's get straight into it. So obviously, this came about because you watched my video about Big Red and you had some contention with some things that went down in that video. So,
Oh yeah, completely.
okay, great. So you go ahead and lay it out for me.
Okay, so when the entire time you watched that video, and a couple times you asked why she's even being filmed, like what the context of the clip was.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Did you notice they were outside?
yeah.
Yeah. Do you know why they were outside?
No, I don't know why they're outside. No.
Okay, so I'm going to give you one of three options as to why they were outside, and I want your answer on which one you think it is.
Okay, cool.
So, number one, it was outside of a university. So it's sort of like it's a place where anyone can sort of like run around and debate. It's kind of like the Canadian version of Speaker's Corner.
Right. Okay.
Number two, there was a talk on male suicide, and there was a protest, and the fire alarms were pulled illegally, so everyone had to be escorted out of the building so that because the fire department were going to show up. Or
Right.
three, some guys just randomly like tried to harass a feminist in the street. Go on, one of those three.
Okay. I mean, it's obviously two, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It fucking is.
Wait. Okay. So there was a talk on men's suicide.
Yeah.
Who hosted the talk?
It was I can't remember the names of the people who were hosting the talk, but it was admittedly an MRA group.
Right,
I
okay.
know of like I remember the name of like one person there. I think I'm still mutuals with him on this account.
Sure.
But I don't I can't remember the specifics of of who the talk was on.
Okay.
But basically, the real like reason that Big Red became such an iconic meme wasn't the fact that she was like simply the fact that she was like annoying and shrill.
Mm-hmm.
It was the fact that she joined a protest against a group talking about men's issues,
Right.
then shut this talk down. Everyone had to be taken outside, and then she stood there writing like to read out a list of why feminism isn't harming the discussion on men's issues.
Right. Okay.
So you've got to watch the entire video with that like sheer ironic context to fully understand why she was so like annoying.
Right. Got it. Okay. Yeah. Sure. No. Like I say, I did. Well, the way in which I was questioning the you know. The reason that I sort of watched the video, just to explain the thought process behind that series, right? So the thought process is, the reason I'm doing it is because there's a few people, like, you know, there's that other one. I'll put it up on the screen.
Yeah, there was some woman who like screamed after she found out Trump won or something.
Oh yeah, well the funny thing
Yeah.
is, as part of my first video, just after the segment I did on it, I actually watched that video where that woman screamed, and I kind of conceded that, yeah, that was kind of a bit cringe. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I understand that.
And there was another one as well, and it's basically a woman talking about like it's a conversation about rape in the United States or something like that.
Oh yeah.
I'll throw her up on screen real quick. Hang on a sec. So this is her. Remember her?
Hang on. I need to open up the Twitch stream because I cannot see.
No, it's no worries.
Oh yeah, her. Yeah, I remember her.
So basically, I watched her video on stream, and basically she was like completely calm, talking to some person who was like going off about Muslims and stuff, or I can't remember the exact details.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And she was quite calm. So basically, I'm kind of going through these triggered SJW memes because I want to kind of have a look and see, well, is it fair that they've been turned into a meme for like 3 or 4 years off the back of what happened? You know
of course not. If Big Red had shown up in 2020, she would have been like, oh, she's cringe on on Twitter for like a week, and then everyone would have forgotten she even existed. As far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, exactly. So I appreciate that. Obviously, there might be other context to the video that it came to be that they were outside and stuff. And yeah, in hindsight, maybe I should have looked into it a bit more in terms of like, well, why was it they were outside? But the main intention was just to watch the video and just see what happened.
Yeah.
And I think I even said at some points in the video, I was like, yeah, this woman, although like she's got some energy that I kind of can respect, her rhetoric isn't very good and isn't really going to convince anyone, right?
Yeah, but I would even go as far as to say that the rhetoric, it wasn't just the rhetoric, but it was actually the things she was saying that were false.
Okay, well I don't know about that, because there's always this idea that like the men's rights movement is held back by feminists, right? And I guess I just don't really see how that's possible, because a fucking couple of feminists in their bedroom are stopping the men's rights from advocating.
Oh no, not the feminists in their bedroom.
Okay,
I will totally agree that like teenage girls in their bedrooms are having no effect on the men's rights movement.
Okay,
but this is the reason I was an MRA for as long as I was, and why it took so hard for me. Why it was so hard for me to really kind of put this to bed, because it is an issue I genuinely care about. Like I still have to I really cared about the men's rights movement, and I actually did try to get involved in like real life activist groups and stuff like that. And the thing is it's such it was such a small movement. I don't know exactly what the issue is like on the ground now, but I was a fucking YouTuber with a couple thousand subscribers.
Yeah.
And that was enough notoriety for them, for me to be to hang out with the sort of like the top MRAs in the fucking country. It's damn. It was like 20 guys in a room. I was offered like a free entry to the International Conference for Men's Issues. The biggest men's issues event in the world at the time, and I was literally like a fucking low tier e-celeb that wouldn't even make a dent these days, because it's such a small thing. But the thing is, right, there is actually a lot more to this than just like, oh, it's all caused by traditionalism, and feminists haven't played a part in any of it.
Okay.
So it's not just like the fact that I'm not even going to go as far as to say it's just the fact that like feminists themselves have protested MRAs. Like if it turned out that like feminists weren't standing in the way of these issues, and it was just like, oh, they protested some MRAs, but they also did their own like pro men's issues stuff as well. Like I'd be totally okay with that. I'd be in full support of that issue, right? Yeah. I'd stand with them any day before the MRAs these days. But like the problem is that just really isn't exactly the case.
Right. Okay.
So we'll go with actually the first one.
Yeah.
Right. Which the first point that Big Red brought up, which is feminists don't want to stop you from seeing your kids. The idea that, and I think the quote is, the idea that women are better caregivers is part of patriarchy. Right. Now, she's not wrong on that second point, but it kind of, it's actually not entirely, it's sort of like a lie by omission. And I'm going to admit that she probably doesn't know this either. So...
Yeah, I just want to say on that point, like, when I think that like saying things are due to the patriarchy, like, I don't really like that kind of phrasing, because it kind of just dismisses everything else and almost puts it on the shoulders of men, right? And it's like, although men benefit from the power structures that were set up historically to benefit men, they aren't like responsible for that per se. Do you know what I mean? So
I mean, there's that, and I think like I think it's a very liberal idea to think that men sort of universally benefit from these power structures. I think I actually think they're more fucked over than they are helped. by like the power structures that exist, at least
Yeah.
most of them. Maybe you could argue that, like, I don't know, like Chad Coppington or something, like he's a police officer and he's like he basically looks like Chris Hemsworth, and he's got like a bit of like family wealth or something. He's got a rich uncle. Like he might do fine, right?
Yeah.
He might never really fully understand that like other men are struggling the fuck out, right? But I genuinely don't think that is the case for most guys.
Yeah.
Because like, as much as like the idea is that patriarchy like helps you, like gives you privileges as a man. The problem is that it gives you privileges as a man as long as you live up to the sort of stereotype that you're supposed to, right?
Yeah. So
and the problem is,
you're like strong, powerful, you're mentally well, you stoic, etc. Yeah.
Yeah. The problem is that every man fails at it to some extent. And every man is then punished for it in different ways. And like even succeeding is its own form of hell.
Yeah.
But in this case, right, when it comes to the father's rights issue, it's actually a bit more complicated than that, because the thing is that when we're talking about a lot of these like traditional gender roles that we see these days, when you're talking about like sort of conservatives who think like conservatives have always thought that the perfect like ultra trad time that was absolutely perfect and where we should be going for is about 30 years ago.
Right.
Anytime throughout like human history, it's always about 30 years ago. There's a quote from some writer talking about the woman's rights woman of the 80s versus like the modern woman.
Right. Okay.
But they're not actually talking about like the women's rights movement of the woman of like the 1980s. They're talking about the 1880s.
Holy shit! Wow.
Yeah, like this is like the thing is that this there has been like a back and forth throughout a significant amount of like the past like I'd say 150 200 years, and that's been mostly to do with like the Industrial Revolution. Like I'm gonna be 100% honest, the washing machine did more for allowing women to come into the workplace than like a lot of protesting did, because like it freed up a lot of free time women in the household had and actually allowed them to be able to go out and get jobs. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think that there's definitely been, but the thing is, I'd say that's true not just of women but of men as well. Like,
oh yeah, totally, totally. I would say a lot of the a lot of like the advances in like men's issues as well have actually been more advances in like technology actually increasing like the likelihood the sort of just the general quality of life of the average man than like any like breakdown of gender roles that has been that a lot of feminists would say take credit for. But like in this case, so the reason I wanted to like bring this up first is because it's a bit of context. So let's say 200 years ago, let's say 250 years ago, like divorce is a thing. It's very rare, right?
Yeah.
But like it happens. Who gets the kids?
Well, the woman does, yeah.
No.
Wait.
Originally, when divorce was a thing, with divorce, the father actually had custody of the children, because children were considered property of the parents.
Right. Okay.
And because children could actually make money, the father actually had basically had in charge of them. Like the thing is that children themselves are like the concept of childhood is a very new thing as well, right? Like, oh yeah, the child goes to school and then starts to grow up as an adult, and then you only sort of become a full adult at like 16 to 18. That's really new.
Right.
But like, I think it was. So I think if the year I'm right, it was sort of like we're talking 19th. We're talking the 19th century here.
Yeah.
It was actually a women's rights activist. So she, or I think she. I can't remember if she actually did identify as a feminist, but she was definitely like the equivalent of a feminist at the time. Her name was Caroline Norton, and she was the one who actually lobbied for this to change. That actually it was in the interest of the mothers to be around their kids more. So actually, like that was actually what lobbied for the shift towards mothers having custody of kids. It was actually like a first wave feminism thing, or sort of like proto first wave feminism.
Right.
And that became known as the tender years doctrine. And then that shifted over time to the best interest of the child doctrine. And this is where actually Big Red is somewhat right, is that the idea that women are better caregivers is part of patriarchy. That idea is much older than any of this stuff. Mm-hmm. But the legal precedent itself that was used to justify it was actually like originally a feminist was originally like a feminist thing, right?
Okay.
And now the precedent is the best interest of the child. The idea is that basically women women are like the primary caregivers normally anyway. That like they spend more time with the kids, and something men are dangerous to children. Because that's like men are more violent, men are scary, men are like abusive, blah 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 blah. A lot of these stereotypes are generally more associated with men than they are with women.
Yeah,
I don't think that's an uncontroversial thing to say.
Yeah, sure. No, I definitely agree with that. Yeah.
And I wouldn't even say that is uncontroversial. That it's a view that is very commonly held by self-identified feminists. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is actually used in as justification in court to discriminate against fathers when they are actually applying for custody. The idea is that the custody is assumed with the mother, even in like US law, where it's sort of considered like gender neutral, but like it's not. Kind of like I like to think of it in the same way as like systemic racism. Yeah. You know, and I like a lot of people will say, oh, but men have the power. It's not like that. I'm not saying it in that way. I'm saying in the sense that like a lot of this discrimination isn't like in name. It's just sort of in sort of in effect. It's kind of like that's the reason it's like a lot of these laws are written this way. They produce the result without actually like saying it on the surface, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of the law is basically like it's geared to actively discriminate against fathers, even if it's not like trying to. So you get a lot of cases where like the father just like doesn't get the chance to see his kids, and he's like fighting an uphill battle to even like have a chance of like visitation rights, let alone custody. So the idea is that like there have been like lots of efforts for shared parenting. Shared parenting laws. So basically, the idea is that the courts go from a default assumption of the mother, right? Mm-hmm. And they go actually into the sort of this default like joint custody, and then you go from there depending on what parent sort of is best geared to it, right? Yeah. Which I think is a fair way to go about it. And at the moment with sort of the family courts, that's not how it's done.
Well, sorry. I just want to respond to that. So basically, what I'd say to that though is that whilst the way I see it is historically there may be things that have been applied by the patriarchy or feminists that have had an influence and an impact on decisions that are made within the system. But I think that like although because like you can say. Men are responsible for having set up in this way, women are responsible for having it set up in that way. But the system perpetuates today no longer because of feminists or the patriarch or whatever per se. It's more to do with the fact that the ruling class want to impose their will and oppress everyone. That's the kind of way
I mean, to some extent, right? Yeah. But like... feminist group, the reason a lot of these, pretty much every single one of these like shared parenting bills has failed, right?
Right, yeah.
At least in America, and I don't know the specifics as much around the UK situation, but as far as I know, it's very similar here. Is that feminist groups have lobbied against it?
Yeah.
And they basically said, oh, it's a men's rights thing.
Wait, hang on, wait, slow down. What feminist group has got the kind of lobbying power to stop bills being passed?
The largest one in the world, the National Organization for Women.
Wait, and that has lobbied government successfully to stop this bill from going through?
Yeah, every single time there's a
Holy
shared
fuck.
parenting bill that goes through that is proposed, they lobby against it, and every single time they will misrepresent the contents of these bills to say that it's actually like a men's abusers lobby, that it's actually trying to discriminate against women, blah 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 blah. Every single time, like they have actively opposed this stuff, and I've got
shit.
I've got like actual evidence of this if you want to see it.
Well, yeah, it's not that I don't believe you. I'm just interested to see because, I would have thought, that any sort of bill that came to pass that tried to equalise rights for children amongst parents would be shot down by the government, not upon pressure from like a feminist group, right?
Oh well, the National Organization for Women does have money and power. Like lobbying groups are a thing, and they do they can change stuff. Like there is a reason that like say like the Violence Against Women Act actually existed, right? Yeah. There's like a genuine reason behind that. And with the National Organization for Women, like they do have the money and power to have like an effect in this area. And especially like when you're thinking like more left-wing lawmakers and politicians, they are they are really prone to this idea that like, okay, we've got to listen to the feminists because it's like the best interest of women. Like no, like how many politicians are going to be like, oh, let's fight for the men's rights? They don't. I'm gonna be 100% honest. Like, and I will say, like the Conservatives are no better are like really bad at this as well. And they have their own like 30 years ago trad justifications for it. But the point is that like most of like the active like moneyed opposition is actually genuinely feminist organizations. And like I don't like to say that. I would wish it weren't true, but it is.
Have you got the source? I just want to quickly.
Yeah. Here's okay. So this is an archive of this is one from 2005. I've been scrambling through my old videos to like get links and evidence for this shit. I'll chuck it in the stream chat. I'll chuck it in the stream chat.
That. Yeah, then everyone else can check it out as well.
Yeah, no. Like I did actually a series of videos back in the day. I saw Takedown MRAs posting a screenshot of the of one of them, and actually I genuinely want to like redo them, but without like the without like the really racist name.
What's that? What racist name?
Well, I didn't know that Didn't Do Nothing was like. Racist overtones.
Yeah, that is.
The series was called Feminism Didn't Do Nothing, right?
Yeah.
Because I was kind of annoyed, and this is like at the time when I was still sort of like an anti-SJW, anti-feminist type. Like my annoyance was that people were just like screaming about like feminist cringe videos, and like they were like, oh yeah, well like. First wave feminism was good, and second wave feminism was all right, and like the third wave is like okay, it's a bad one. And it's like actually no, the third wave is like the least bad. If anything, they have genuinely progressed on this stuff. It's like and I've got like the genuine evidence behind all of this.
Yeah. Well, the thing is with like the third wave of feminism is broadly speaking, and of course there's some like fringe examples of people that don't quite take this to heart. Weird people on YouTube and Twitter. But generally speaking, it is intersectional, and there's an acceptance there that like although broadly speaking in society there's obviously benefits that men benefit from. Class is a big factor in all this, right? And
yeah, totally.
And there's a bit of a disagreement happening in the chat there, but it's like the argument that like if you're like in poverty and you're a man, and you're in poverty and you're a woman, well, it's probably going to be marginally better if you're a man, but you're still both in poverty, right?
I wouldn't even say it would necessarily be marginally better. You've got to remember that like. The reason that 90% of unsheltered homeless are men is because there are a lot of social safety nets that women can access that men do struggle to. And that is actually partially due to the fact that people think, oh, you're a guy, you'll be all right.
Right. Yeah. No, that's a good point. Actually, I hadn't thought of that aspect. Yeah.
And actually, the majority of like homeless men, especially unsheltered homeless, are like have some kind of mental disability. They're not just like They're not just like lazy guys who fucking who lost their jobs and then couldn't be asked and decided to drink their sorrows away until they stop paying rent.
Yeah.
Like most of them are like need genuine help. It's just that like things got fucked up.
Yeah, sure. I think you'd have to do it precisely like for like. So if you've got a homeless man and a homeless woman in that situation as it exists, you know, it's probably likely that there'd be a bit more issue that maybe the woman might face potentially because, you know, the sexual assault and stuff like that. But yeah,
no, that's true.
I agree with you that yeah, of course, you know, at the bottom rung of the ladder. I mean, the thing is like the way I see it, if we're looking at the bottom rung of the ladder and we're looking at like, you know, oh, who's got it worse? It's like you're both fucked. Like, what does it matter? Do you know what I mean? That's the thing I always think about.
Okay, so the reason it does matter to some extent is because that kind of thing does involve does include things like funding allocation for like outreach groups for like the specifics of like who needs to be prioritized in help. I mean, like, let's say for example, we decided that like the people who are most likely to be to be victims of police violence were white.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, this is not true, and this is the point. Yeah. But what would happen if like all of the outreach were White Lives Matter, white people shouldn't be shot by police? You'd probably think that might have some issues when actually trying to deal with the underlying like problem behind police brutality and like and like systemic racism and stuff, right?
Yeah.
You'd think, oh, there would be something that wouldn't be understood there. And so I do think it is actually genuinely worthwhile to make some comparisons between like okay, so this group is suffering disproportionately in this area. Why? Why and what can we do to solve that? Are there like disadvantages that they have that are hurting them more that need to be dealt with? Like, and I think in this case, like so when it comes to like the father's rights thing, I genuinely think like a lot of this problem comes down, and I think that we'll come back to this because I think it's a really serious issue because this is not just I don't think this is like exclusive to like the quote unquote bad feminists, because I see it from like feminists who I actually like and support, but still I still see this issue with like in their thinking, right? Is that like men have to have it better. They must do, like in general at least, you know, like it's an uncomfortable idea that like society hurts men more. Because men kind of have to be the privileged group. They have to be at the top. And like even going as far as like separating the men at the top from the men at the bottom and thinking, oh, they can't have it worse. They can't be suffering more. It seems to be like this. The problem is that like you could potentially have that idea and then go and like work in like a men's issues group and whatnot. Like you could support male victims of domestic violence and sexual assault and stuff like that, and even fathers' rights and whatnot. But like, if you were to work in a specific dedicated men's issues group, and you always had this idea that men are actually generally doing a bit better than women, I think that still like would inform what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
And it especially informs politicians who are looking for funding who are allocating funding to different organizations and groups and outreach stuff. Like, there's a reason why there are more why there's more, for example, resources for female victims of rape, right? And the reason is because people think it's an overwhelmingly disproportionate number of women who are raped compared to men, right?
Yeah.
And the reason, and so, like, if that weren't true, if it weren't like an overwhelmingly different number, then that would probably cause an indiscriminate. That would cause like some level of discrimination. But if it were that it were actually disproportionate, then you probably think actually, you know, that like you would see that disproportionate amount of help because there would be more dedicated to women because like women need it more, right? If a group needs help more, they do like need more help, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I think I'll actually like defend. I think like to some extent we can get a bit like internet like edgelord, like, oh, why do we do this oppression Olympics thing? But I think to some extent there is a genuine reason to look at, okay, who is actually suffering more from this issue. Like rich people suffer, poor people suffer in life. Like, why do we need to care about more? Like who suffers more? It's like there are reasons behind it. So so like I think it does. I think it would be better if people within like dedicated men's issues groups were genuinely more sympathetic to the idea that men suffer more in the issue that they're actually dealing with, because, or at least suffer in a way that is harder to appreciate by wider society. Because I think like there is genuine discrimination in these issues because people do assume that, like,
Yeah,
well,
sure.
if you're a guy, you're gonna be doing better.
I just don't like this idea of trying to figure out who's struggling more, who's suffering more. Like, I know you sort of corrected it, but you know, I think it's just easier to say, you know, these people are suffering from this issue, these people are suffering from this issue, you know, and the thing is obviously like within the society we exist in, it just seems like that there's not enough money to go around. There's not enough funding to go around for all of those issues. That there is really, if you really wanted to look at it.
Well, yeah, exactly. Number one, there is.
Yeah.
And number two, like, we don't say this about any other discrimination issue. We don't say we don't talk about this when, say, like, women are like harmed in hiring discrimination. We don't say, oh well, like, why are we doing this oppression Olympics thing? Why are we talking about women suffering more? Like, there isn't enough money to go around for these issues anyway. Who cares, right? Yeah. We don't say that with women. We don't say that when it comes to like people of color being discriminated against with disproportionate police brutality, or poor people when we're talking about economic help. We only seem to like suddenly bring up this very concerned issue when it's related to men's issues.
But I think
unless you are a conservative, and then you say that on every issue of discrimination ever.
Yeah. Okay, I'm glad you made that qualify there, because that's exactly what I was going to say. Is it is often brought up as like a sort of concern troll, right? And
I genuinely think that this is actually like okay, so my issue, and this is the criticism that I would make of feminists, is not that like feminism is a hate movement that hates men or anything. I probably would have said that like years ago.
Yeah.
But that's not where I'm at right now. Is that my issue is actually one of it's actually an entirely leftist position. Is that feminism fails to include its intersectionality towards like how men suffer under patriarchy, and doesn't fully incorporate that like understanding of how men are oppressed under the system in the same in similar and often completely different ways to women, and that actually ends up harming their response to like discrimination against men.
I mean, the issue I've got, I guess, there is like, you know, what kind of feminists are we talking about? Like, you know, you know.
Well, that does depend, because like like the best feminists I've heard like on these issues, and I like, you know, there are a lot of feminists like who follow me and actually support support me talking about this stuff, right? But like at the end of the day, they are just sort of random people on Twitter. They aren't people with any kind of like power to do anything in my experience. Like, and so yeah, like I do think like this problem will eventually shift forwards. Like, I think that the understanding that I have of men's issues, and like the sort of like increasing compassion towards men, like in these areas, will slowly like bleed into the feminist movement. But I just don't think most of them are there yet. Is that fair? Like, I think they've just failed to like apply their intersectionality in this specific area, because it is so sort of like ingrained, and we haven't really looked at it like we have a lot of other forms of oppression. Yeah. And on top of that, you've got this like secondary issue that we have looked at women, and so it looks like a sort of a right-wing reactionary issue to hold on to. Where like if you talk about like men, like men's rights or whatever, you're automatically dismissed as like far right or something.
But I think there's got to be some accountability there at the feet of the men's rights movement as a whole.
Oh yeah,
because
totally.
They are like, if you look at their advocacy and stuff, they tend to just be a bunch of shitheads, like, to put it bluntly.
Well, oh no. Well, there's a reason I don't associate with the men's rights movement anymore. Like the thing is like, even like 17, 18-year-old me started to take issue with like with people like Paul Elam and a lot of other members, because they did jump on that like right-wing bandwagon. I remember Paul Elam like advocating voting for Trump. I remember I remember like the men's rights movement at the time did like pretty much like lionize Philip Davies. He's a Conservative MP.
I know Philip Davies. Yeah. Well, explain for the audience. Yeah.
So this was a couple of years ago. I think this was in 2016, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Was it 2016 or 2015? I can't. No, it was 2016.
It was around the time of all the anti-SJW stuff. He was like a bit of a lionhead for them, right?
Yeah. So basically, right, Philip Davies, and I've got to be honest, I don't know what his motivations were for this, but he came to like the Parliament and said, okay, we're going to be doing International Men's Day. Why don't we have a talk about men's issues on International Men's Day? And honestly, like, I don't like him because I hate Tories. But at the time, I did shake his hand. I met him actually.
Oh wow! Okay.
At the International Conference for Men's Issues, right? And I think like he and it was actually Labour Party member Jess Phillips who tried to block the talk, tried to block the discussion, based on the idea that men have all the rights, men don't need help. Oh yeah, why do we have a bunch of men discussing men's issues? Like men could talk about their rights all the time.
Yeah, I think
what I would say that was the reason that they tried to stop that talk.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Well, look, what I'd say to that is someone like Greg Phillips is like, he doesn't give a fuck about the rights. He's a Tory, right? Like, he's a Tory.
He doesn't give. Yeah, I genuinely think that like the problem is that like it was such like the problem with the men's issues thing. Yeah, and I'll say this like I'll say this to some extent. Like, I think a lot of them were right wing as well, and I think that played a part. But the thing is that like the men's issues conversation was so like hard to get anyone to care about that these guys would take anyone, and pretty much they pretty much exclusively saw right wingers supporting them. And I think like at one point Trump made some comment about men having it harder or some shit, and they just jumped on the Trump train.
Yeah.
Like, I saw this coming. I saw this fail. Like they've completely and utterly failed to actually get anything done in that direction. And so like whatever, right? Okay, they bought the grift and they've suffered for it. But at the end of the day, like, to some extent, and I'm saying this as someone who was like deep within the men's rights movement at the time, trying to talk about these issues, that like I was like, yeah, I'm a lefty. I don't even think like I'm not trying to like I don't think any of the things I'm saying are actually like right wing positions. I think they are socially progressive, right?
Yeah.
And like I don't know. I think like at the time I was trying to come to the I was trying to like say, even though I didn't really understand, but I was outflanking them from like a more progressive attitude than they had.
Yeah.
But it's hard to like word it that way when you're surrounded by people who think the word progressive literally means like communist who wants to destroy like the world.
Well, it's funny because I can see in chat people are like, "Huh, what men's rights issues are there?" Like, even now, you can't even like have a conversation about it without people coming in going, "Huh, what's that, shaving?" And it's like, I do kind of agree that absolutely there needs to be more of a conversation about it. And it is frustrating when people kind of just dismiss it offhand. And for me though, I think that the reason this issue has become so difficult to talk about, it is because of how it's been advocated for. And when you've got men's rights advocates jumping on board with Trump, or going and meeting this story,
but this issue was I know where you're going. I know where you're going with this. So I do want to cut you off because
sure, go ahead,
I've heard this before. Is that's not how it started. There have been pro men's issues groups before, right? And are you familiar with the writer named Warren Farrell?
I don't think so.
He wrote a book. He wrote a book named the myth called The Myth of Male Power. So he actually started trying to bring up these issues, early 2000s, right? This is before the men's rights movement was really a thing. But he was a card-carrying member on the board of the National Organization for Women.
Right.
He was an open feminist, right?
Right, okay.
When he started talking about men's issues, he was kicked off the board and pretty much the early 2000s version of cancelled.
Yeah.
For even talking about this. This was before a voice for men became a real serious thing. When he was talking about how men can also suffer under patriarchy and shit like that, that was how he was treated. The thing is that we have progressed so far in just the past, 6 years. It kind of sounds silly and almost ridiculous that sort of thing would happen. But at the end of the day, it did. The reason the men's rights movement at the time was so, and the thing is that the conversation even a few years ago was what rights do men have though? What issues do men have? Oh, shaving. Oh, what being a guy? It's so easy. You don't have to deal with anything at this point. That was the very that was the pinnacle of men's rights issues, men's rights conversation at the time. From the media, from feminist organizations, pretty much everywhere. And I honestly do think that as much as as much as I hate how Paul Elam went about it, his dodgy clickbait routine kind of did start the conversation going. It did bring it did sort of in a sort of a butterfly effect way bring people like me into the conversation. I didn't come through Paul Elam, but I did. But I don't think that if he didn't exist, I don't know if I would be here. Sitting here where I am now, talking about this stuff from a very a more compassionate left wing version of what he thought he was trying to do.
Well, that's that. Okay, this is my big issue. Is I think that the conversation is largely taken up by men's rights advocates who normally move to the right, as you've highlighted there, right? Because it seems on the face of it, and this speaks to the whole anti-SJW movement. It seems like the right are giving you the answers, but they're hollow. There's nothing inside them, right? And this group is having a debate, not with lefties per se, but it's liberal feminists that are and to me, liberal feminism is hollow and empty because it's the more female drone pilots type shit. It doesn't speak to my politics.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, and that was kind of some the more female drone pilots, liberal feminist shit. That was part of what I even back then was what I was critical of. And you got to remember, online there wasn't a left wing space where you could criticize that kind of rhetoric. This this criticism of more female CEOs, more female drone pilots is actually I think partially is I think that's partially due to just the fact that the conversation has moved forwards and we do have this leftist space to talk about that. But at the same time, I think part of it is because I know you are a former chud, I'm a former chud. A lot of people who used to be anti-SJWs who were who understand and were critical of that stuff because it was cringy and shit.
Yeah.
Have moved over and have made it more acceptable to make those points. You got to remember years ago, someone if you made that more female drone pilots thing, you would have you would have been dismissed as a right-wing anti-SJW. And you probably would have ended up getting so harassed by left-wingers on the internet that you would have started finding Sargonites who would oh yeah, no, this person's fine, and then you'd be like slowly drawn in. And that's kind of basically what happened to me. Like I
Yeah.
would not be like that. That is what happened to like a very impressionable 17-year-old me. I was like screamed at by like feminists on fucking atheist forums and shit. And like and just for like those mild criticisms, which I don't think are like entirely were entirely inaccurate. Like that was the reason. That was the reason. Like I thought the Sargonites kind of had a point, and like it did take some level of deprogramming to then move out of that. But I don't think that any like the criticisms themselves were entirely unfair, because at the end of the day, like genuinely are problems of like discrimination and prejudice against men within like feminist circles, because I think a lot of them do fail to understand that like exactly like how to do intersectionality right.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Well, yeah,
I
totally agree, and I think that like the issue is, they gave you these hollow examples, but it seemed like it's like if you would have just gone further left and looked there, you would have had some answers and you would have had some people talking about this. But there weren't very many prominent voices that were actually doing that. It was mainly liberal feminists.
I mean, in terms of community, it was like a more of a right wing thing. But I think like in terms of policy, I was always very left. Like, I never voted conservative or any shit like that. I've always been like I dream of a society with like strong enough social safety nets that literally everyone can like have their needs met, like by some kind of governmental policy, like sort of a proto UBI kind of idea. But like so I'm not necessarily I don't necessarily think I was like ever as I started to see like the right wing them jumping on this sort of like right wing reactionary trend. Like one of the videos I did after the International Conference for Men's Issues was actually criticizing this guy who was an MRA, apparently. I don't know exactly why people considered him an MRA, because he didn't even talk about men's issues. He literally spent the entire talk just complaining about like how traditional values have been killed and that women are abdicating their responsibility to have children and stuff. And I was just like, guys, this is like I thought we were talking about men's rights here. This is nothing to do with men's rights. This is like feminism bad. They killed traditionalism. Like, no, that wasn't what I was here for. I was always here for like the I was always here to fight like to fight against the discrimination part. Like it was always an anti-discrimination thing for me. And so like when I started seeing them just like drop like the pretense of caring about anti-discrimination, like I just sort of gave up. I think Paul Elam and that sort of a Voice for Men brand of men's rights, they did one thing, and they started the conversation. A conversation that was not being had. And at the end of the day, I think to some extent maybe jumping on the anti-SJW bandwagon wasn't the worst thing in the world, because they at least like popularized the like caring about this stuff. But the problem is that like the caring about it for most people was exceptionally shallow. And I think I'm one of the few people who is like read enough on this, and at the same time like cares enough about the issue to talk about it, that's even left from that. Like most of the former MRAs I know are like, a lot of them are left are within like the lefty socialist sort of area on Twitter, like on the internet now, but a lot of them are like they dropped out. They didn't want their faces to be seen again. They just want to like hide from the internet at this point.
Oh shit!
Out of shame.
What? Because of what happened within the men's rights communities and whatnot? Or,
mostly because of what happened in the men's rights communities, and they were never as like I was someone who kind of like I think like I got the I think I got the luxury. I don't know really like if you really call it a luxury, but I got the opportunity to basically build a redemption arc. I actually genuinely set out like, okay, I I need to sort of build up my left wing cred again, because
Yeah.
I am I am a lefty. I just need people to realize it. So I'm like, okay, I'm actually going to start being a lefty now,
Yeah.
instead of sort of throwing that away, and because obviously you got like the Dave Rubin types who are like, oh yeah, I'm in favor of universal healthcare, but I won't vote for or support anything like to prove that.
Yeah, exactly.
Or like Sargon, get universal healthcare but vote Trump. It's like, how? No. So yeah, like no, like I think like I'm sticking more to like showing that, yeah, I am a lefty, I am on like your side. Like the reason that I care about these issues is not like because there's like a secret right wing a secret right winger in me. It's because like yes, I do think that like the idea that male victims of domestic violence shouldn't be cared about is a reactionary position to take. And the fact that like, and the fact that this is the fact that it isn't cared about enough is a problem, even when purported feminists do it. Actually, that's another issue if you want to talk about with domestic violence, because that's another really interesting issue, right?
Yeah, I mean, my understanding with domestic violence is that men suffer it more than we realise, but when men do it to women, they do it more violently and more.
Yeah. Okay. So the idea, so like, it's very, very complicated when it comes to domestic violence, because you gotta remember, for one, like a lot of like partner violence is actually like they're both doing it to each other, so they're actually just getting into fights. And because the thing is that domestic violence is sort of like a cycle of violence. You learn it from your parents. You live in an abusive household. That's like the biggest factor in whether or not you actually grow up to become a domestic abuser.
Yeah, I mean,
having seen it in childhood.
No domestic abuser is inherently an evil or bad person. It's their conditions that have led them to the position where they do it. So whilst obviously people have got to be protected from these people, they also need help to rehabilitate and get out of that mindset too. Right?
Yeah. But like, so the idea, so yeah, like I think it's actually a kind of an uncontroversial position to understand that nowadays, like, men kind of suffer domestic violence to some extent, like, maybe not like an equal amount to women, but like at the very least a comparable amount, right? Okay. It's comparable. The results of the actual physical violence do differ to some extent, and I have I have some hot takes on potentially why that might be, and I will also bring in a very serious criticism of an MRA if on that.
Okay, go for it. Yeah.
Okay, so the when was like, do you remember in school? Did you go to you went to a primary school, right?
Yeah, I went to primary school. Yeah.
Did you ever get a girl like hit you and say, "You can't hit me back because I'm a girl"?
Yes, yeah, I did. Yeah.
Yeah. Every guy I've ever spoken to has had that experience, not once, but like so many times they couldn't count.
Yeah.
And the thing is, right, is that is not exactly something that disappears with age.
Yeah.
Most women do have, at the very least, some understanding that guys aren't supposed to hit back.
Yeah, no, that's true. Like, imagine if a woman in a bar came and glassed me. Like, what, am I not allowed to hit her back? Like, that's fucking ridiculous, right?
Well, no. Like, what if you said something mean to a girl, right? And then she slapped you around the face?
Yeah.
That is, the thing is that women's violence to men, and this is one of my like really hot takes that will get me that will piss off like the takedown MRAs of the internet, is that like I think so much of the violence that women commit towards men is so normalized. It's so like it's so like uncontroversial and normalized that we don't even see it like even almost as violence. And I think like part of that is because like I think as well is that a lot of men like men and boys are, I think, a bit more like psychologically primed to like be able to handle being a victim of violence. Like if you I think like because we're just so used to it, like we kind of like for if a girl gets hit in the face, very often that's like a really traumatic experience, because how often does that happen to her, right? But if your friend like punched you, right, like he punches you in the arm,
Yeah.
and you're like, "Ow, that hurt." You'd just be like, "The fuck, dude?
Yeah,
That
yeah.
hurt. Fuck you." And then that's it, right? But because it's like it's not normal, and the fact is that like if she's a woman and she's being hit in the face, then like something serious must have happened there.
Wait,
So
yeah,
it's
this
like
is true. This is socialized, right? So if
Yeah, this is
someone
very
saying in
socialized.
chat, you know, on TV, the man will say something a bit spicy, and the woman will slap him around the face, and it's seen as like a sort of empowering thing that a woman's doing to physically attack a man, right?
Well,
Like,
it's not even like it's empowering. It's like expected.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's expected. It's acceptable, right? And like I hang out with women, and a couple times, right, I've said something. I've said something a bit spicy or a bit like you know, just or just like a bit of a banter kind of thing, and their response is to like tap me on the arm or something. And like the problem is like it didn't hurt, or even if it did, doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
But if I did the same to the same extent, it would not be seen the same way. Like, and think about that when it comes to like reporting on these issues, right? Think about that when you're like, say there was like a domestic violence reporting a report form, right? And the number of guys who would have said like their girlfriend hit them, how many of them would bring up like situations like that, right? Like most of them wouldn't even notice it being a thing because it's so normalized. The ones who are actually doing it in sort of like this abusive cycle of violence probably wouldn't even like realize it until it's too late. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And at the same time, I think the thing is that because women can get away with it, the abusive women who do it can get away with it so freely. So they like the thing is that and this is where I'm going to bring up an old post from Karen Strawn. Is she's talking on some like it was some like red pill Return of Kings guy.
Oh god. No.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I think it was no. It was Matt Forney.
Oh no.
Matt Forney?
Oh shit.
Alt-right dogs, right?
Oh, God.
Yeah. Like this dude is a fucking cunt. But yeah, like he wrote this thing about how like domestic violence should be allowed or something like that. But then Karen wrote this comment about how she'd seen like this group of this couple, and he'd like beat the shit out of her, right? But he only beat the shit out of her because she like annoyed him so much, and then like he couldn't and then he just continually bottled her up until he exploded.
Right.
And like and I think like when it comes to male abusers is the fact that yeah, they do bottle things up and then they explode, right? And then they explode and they because that's the point, like they've hit the point of no return. And if they're that pissed off, right? If they're that pissed off, then they are in like potentially kill mode.
Fuck.
If that's like yeah, like if that's how far it takes for you to like even hit her, right? Then you're in a state where you have no control left.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, listen, you know, I know people who have been in like abusive relationships and stuff, and you know, like the woman on the man, and I think the other thing to comment on there as well is the idea of like there's obviously a lot of social stigma around the idea of being abused by a woman. So you know, it could be that for a man, maybe the threshold of what you would consider abuse is higher because you don't want to go to the police and report getting slapped around the face. Yeah. Because again, that's normalised by society, right?
Yeah, but what I'm saying, and someone said in the chat, like, oh, what is he going to do? Like, attack her? Like, no, I'm not defending these guys, and this is where I'm actually going to disagree with Karen, right? So she was actually trying to argue that what we should do is actually be like more accepting of men because they like bottle it up or whatever. And then because they bottle it up, that's the reason they end up committing these like borderline lethal acts. And that if we just accepted men hitting their girlfriends a bit more, then like they'd probably die less often or some shit like that. No, I'm actually going to argue that a lot of it is because like I said beforehand, right? That a lot of these cases are like it's this idea that like that women can like basically piss off and abuse men in a way that like he could like slap her around, like she could slap him around the face if she were doing it. But like, and the fact is that a lot of like abusers, they do this thing called baiting, right? Where they want you to hurt them and then look like the victim, so then they can then like hurt you. It's a very common thing, especially with abusive parents. So I know a couple stories of like, so a guy who got hit in the face with by his mum. Like his mum got drunk, right? And like she's 5'2", right? His mum's like 5'2", very drunk. He does like wouldn't hurt a fly, but then she punches him in the face like a dozen times, right? Calling him names, like bringing up his worst insecurities because she's his mum, so she knows them all, right? And like, and what she wants is for him to hit her back, and he got that impression, right? That was the impression that he got, and he said like it took all of my my inner strength to like not do anything other than shout at her, because I was angry. She was trying to make me angry and act out in a stupid angry way, right? And we all have some limit when it comes to lashing out in anger. Not everyone responds with violence, and that's and maybe that's like a personal flaw kind of thing.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, like that guy ended up not doing that, and then she even threatened to call the police anyway, despite him being the one hit in the face, because she was a crying small drunk woman, and he was a 6-foot guy.
Yeah.
But like, and like, imagine being that powerless, right? Imagine like realizing, oh, the police still might think I'm the guy who like I'm the one in the wrong, even though I didn't do anything. And this is a really common thing with like domestic violence, is like she stabbed me and I was arrested.
Right. Sure.
Like and like dealing with knowing MRAs who have like got more experience in this than me, they say this is like this is kind of like their bread and butter, right? And maybe and the problem is, right, is and the reason I'm talking about all of this is like a massive amount of context is because this is a really serious issue. Like this bias goes really heavily. Why do you think the issue of domestic violence became a predominantly women's issue?
I don't know. Was there another lobby group or something? Maybe.
Well, okay. So the original, the first like shelter for victims of domestic violence, it was an exclusively women's domestic violence shelter. It was started up by a woman named Erin Pizzey, and when she was doing this, it was something about like 80 women that she had at the shelter, and she noticed that most of them, over half, were just as, if not more, violent than the men they left. They were violent to the other members. They were violent to their children. And it turned out that, and she just realized, holy shit, maybe they were male victims, right?
Yeah.
So the shelter movement actually ended up being a sort of like she was going to start up like more shelters, but then she basically wrote a book on this.
Right. Okay.
And she was threatened significantly. She had bomb threats to everywhere she went out to talk, and there were death threats as well. I remember her dog being killed, but there was never any proof that someone who did that and why.
Right. Shit.
But then she had to have like police escorts everywhere she went to speak, and then like one day she had the bomb disposal unit sent to her house, and was like, they're like, yeah, you have a suspect package, like she just like left the UK. She just fucked off, left, went to America for like 15 years or some shit. So back in the 70s, that was when kind of like, you know, like first like second wave feminism starting to get like a big legal rights issue more than just voting, right? And this is where like the sort of 70s, 80s, maybe 90s is where like you start to get like this academic brand of feminism where they start to build they start to want to actually like research things, right? They want to research like like domestic violence and rape and stuff like that, and then use that academic research to sort of build like support groups and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
So they built what is called the Duluth model of domestic violence. It's this idea that like that men are primarily controlled, like primarily like commit domestic violence to control women. They're told by the patriarchal society that women need to stay in their place, and that's why they hit their girlfriends and their wives. And if we just like had less patriarchy, then less like men would hit their wives and stuff like that, right? And that's what we need to teach men to do, to deprogram, is to just respect women. So basically, in this, so they actually started doing like research on this. So they started actually like studying victims of domestic violence, and that included like, okay, how many like people are victims, and what they ended up finding out was that like the number of women who the number of men who were victims were actually quite there were actually quite a lot of male victims. So
Right.
like there's like research going into like the 70s of like male victims of domestic violence actually not only existing, but like actually being quite common, and like women committing domestic violence at sort of similar rates to men. If and what they did with this issue, or what they did with these numbers, they buried it. They buried the evidence. Like, you got to remember is that, especially when it comes to domestic violence, most of the types of feminists we're talking about now, and this is where I will bring up types of feminists, were very like turfy.
Right. Holy
so-
shit! So this links into the turf stuff as well.
Yes, this definitely links into the turf stuff. I'll actually bring up another funny example, another little anecdote, which I think is quite amusing. So yeah, like imagine if TERFs controlled the entire like academic conversation and academic research on trans people. How much would you trust them to have like a serious and like honest outlook on it? Do you think they might actually engage in a bit of academic malpractice there?
Yeah, I mean,
To like,
absolutely.
yeah, exactly. But the thing is that TERFs like to some extent hate trans people because trans people, trans women especially, are in their eyes men.
Yeah.
It's the man, penis, man. That's everything
Right.
they say to trans people, right?
Yeah.
And so I think, as much as that's not the only thing, I think there is like there is an evidence of misogyny, and that's another thing. Is I think like the problem is that when you don't include into the discussion of like gender roles, you just get patriarchy to electric boogaloo.
Yeah.
Which is why TERFs suck. But like basically in this situation, right, is like you can go back to a lot of like this academic research, and a guy by the name of Murray Strauss, he did like this proper like meta-analysis, like going through all of this, and this guy's a feminist, so he's like a card-carrying self-identified feminist. So like there are genuinely like feminists who've done like really good work on this stuff. But then basically he found out that like when they would sometimes just like they would ask men, okay, have you committed violence against your partner? They'd ask women, have you committed violence against your partner? And then just not publish the results of how many women said they hit the partner, right? Or how many men had said they were victims of violence. Or they'd ask women, okay, like how many times did you hit your partner and it was actually a case of self-defense or something like that, right? And then they would just not publish the results if they didn't like them. Or they just publish contradictory results to the numbers that were actually in their in their studies. I can link that as well.
Yeah.
Hang on. Because like this is really heavy, like a really obscure information that barely anyone knows.
Yeah.
And it really pisses me off because it's like this is really like where like why I think it's oh, hang on, the fucking link doesn't work. I will try and find that. But yeah, basically like it was actually for like about 30 years this was known and just kind of like swept under the rug intentionally by sort of like turfy types, because they hate, because basically they do have hang-ups with men, and they don't like the idea of men like encroaching on a women's space.
Yeah.
And actually, a really good example of this. Have you heard of the Skeptic Feminist?
Yes, I think I'm familiar with the Skeptic Feminist.
No, yeah, they are notorious for a different reason. I don't think that's relevant in this case. So I'd rather avoid talking about that.
Yeah, that's fine.
But yeah, basically, years ago, a couple of MRAs and we used to sort of like have a sort of like a frenemy relationship with them, and sort of like try and debate and argue with them, right? And in one case, they were in a debate with an MRA guy who went by Bane666, and he did like a video on like domestic violence, and they wanted to like debunk him.
Yeah.
So they brought on this shelter worker from Canada, talking about how actually no, men are actually much worse than women, and like men don't need help, and MRAs are all evil, because they wanted to debunk this issue that like that like actually no, like shelter workers don't hate men, right?
Yeah.
Because I posted a meme ages ago about like shelter work, like shelters like kicking out men. This is like probably like months and months and months and months and months ago, before I left, and it got like a lot of people angry at me, because they didn't like the idea of pointing out that like if you go to a domestic violence shelter and you're a man, then you aren't allowed to go in, right? Yeah. Even if you're a victim of domestic violence. I think some of them actually exclude males over the age of 12. Like there's just like like shit. Just because you're male, yeah. But, like so a woman comes in with like her like her kids, right? 15-year-old girl, 13-year-old boy. They think the 13-year-old boy is dangerous. He should go back with it. Like sometimes what they'll do is they'll try and like find some like hotel to put them up with or something like that. But the point is that like they aren't allowed in like the shelter, because of like some sort of like turf level understanding of gender segregation. And so yeah, like so they were trying to bring up like this. Like a lot of people got mad at me for that, because they're like, no, like shelters are good and right, and they're perfectly woke, and they don't hate like male victims of domestic violence. Well, they brought on this this group brought on this feminist to talk about it, right? This like card carrying shelter worker in Canada. And then Bane did a bit of Bane, the MRA friend of mine. He did a bit of digging, and found that she was using a sock account to like comment on like turf videos about trans people.
Oh god!
And then like the Skeptic Feminist actually started questioning her on this. They were like, "Oh yeah, you're clearly not a TERF. This is all bullshit, right?" And she's like, "I'm not a TERF. TERF is a slur."
Oh no!
Yeah, and you know exactly the direction they're starting to go in, right?
Yeah.
So it turned out that the feminists they brought on to prove that like feminists in shelters don't actually like hate men or like or discriminate in any way was an open TERF, but just didn't want to call herself a TERF. And this is like the real problem is like, again, this is to some extent like it was originally a like a systematic thing. It was originally like a case of people just like these values and these like stereotypes and prejudice and discrimination were like heavily ingrained and like intentional and open, right? If you brought this up 30 years ago, everyone would have said like fuck you, that's the way it's supposed to be, including the self-identified feminists. But a couple decades come on, and a lot of people don't realize don't entirely realize exactly what's going on. Someone asked how he found out it was a sock account. I have no, I can't remember. It was like, we're talking like 4 or 5 years ago. Actually no, yeah, 2015 probably, yeah, about 5 years ago. I don't remember every single stupid like detail of that, but all I remember is that like they found out she was a TERF eventually. Like he was right. But basically like the thing is like a lot of it is just like people don't realize what actually happens on the ground, and don't realize like that a lot of this discrimination is happening because like we said with like the men with the father's rights issue, a lot of it is like a systemic thing.
Yeah.
And the thing is it's hard to really like understand systemic discrimination if you think the group that is being systemically discriminated against is the privileged one.
Yes.
Because there is a sort of like a very poor it's a misunderstanding of like the concept of privilege, and it's a very like liberal thing.
Yes.
Where it is lib shit, but the problem is it does happen with socialists as well. Like they do engage in their own they can engage in lib ideas to some extent.
The reason for that is because liberalism is the overarching ideology that we live in, so we all to some degree are socialized into it, and we all have to work to
and I think we are breaking that down now to some extent. Like you don't see this as much, but yeah, like so basically like this like this liberal like conception of like discrimination and gender roles and whatnot, of like basically they start with, okay, this group is oppressed and this group is privileged, and then they work from there, right?
Yeah.
Which actually isn't as bad when you say, for example, talk about race issues, because there is a group that is like very clearly privileged, and then there's a group that's like very clearly underprivileged. And outside of some very specific occasions, like I know, for example, in the UK, like working class white boys are actually less likely to go to university than say working class black boys. So there are cases where like this can actually even occur within race. It's like not.
They're like the exceptions that prove the rule. Almost.
There are exceptions that prove the rule. But in the case of like men's issues, like you've got to understand. I think a lot of people don't fully understand is that like that like this very like liberal conception of feminism is like originated from like the upper class. It's like even the suffragettes. It started with the upper class. Like it was, why can't I be a doctor or a lawyer or a politician like my husband or my father, and have to be a housewife? At the end of the day, like the working class woman was not exactly lamenting the fact that she had that she didn't have to go and work 15 hours a day, 6 days a week at a steel mill, right? And again, this is also a case of like to some extent like things progressing technologically and socially for just outside of men and women that have sort of had these knock-on effects. But in this case, like the idea is they start with, okay, look at these like disparities with women, and then okay, that must be evidence that women are oppressed, right? And then they think, okay, so men must be the oppressors. So when they start looking at the disparities that men face, they think, okay, this must be the result of men oppressing women, and it's okay. It will or it's like or it's men's own fault, or like if we just get rid of the women's issues, then it will sort of be solved by osmosis. And like because they seem to think like a patriarchy is just sort of this magical thing that sort of like disappears if you just like focus only on the women's issues. And it's a bit more complicated than that. So like if you get there have been a couple of feminist specific men's outreach programs for like men's issues, and every single time it's like they say, oh yeah, we're going to deal with men's issues, and then it's like how we as men can become better and how we as men can stop like instilling patriarchy and like oppressing and using women.
Do you know what this is like? This is like when there's like a group of white liberals that like, you know, wear chains around themselves saying sorry for slavery or something like that, right?
I mean, to some extent, but like imagine that those liberals were like working class and they're actually saying like sorry for police violence or something.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, like police violence also hurts them too. Like I mean, even that's like an awkward example, because in that case, like police violence does disproportionately hurt like black people more. But actually, here's a good example, right? Imagine a group of men said sorry for police violence, where like police disproportionately kill males at like an even higher rate compared to sort of the disparity between men and women when it comes to police brutality is significantly higher, and I think that plays back into the whole like normalization of violence against men. Is that it's just much more normal for us.
Yeah, men are just more violent, right? They're just inherently more violent or whatever.
Yeah, they're just inherently more violent, or like the patriarchal culture makes them more violent. So of course they're going to be like, of course they're going to be more likely to be victims of police violence. And
it's an ignorance of the systemic problems.
Yeah, but it's not just that there's an ignorance of the problems. It's that like because of that ignorance itself, the ignorance of the problems and the ignorance of the stereotypes of discrimination, just always lend to just like what would be on any other issue a reactionary right-wing viewpoint.
Yeah, no, you're right. I agree.
It's that sort of reactionary victim blaming, and I know it's not the same. But when you say, "Oh, well, men are more violent," of course they're going to be more likely to be like be arrested for like the same crimes or something. It's the same as like the black culture
argument.
It's the 1350 argument, but for men. Right.
Yeah.
But then that's acceptable because of this like very bad epistemology.
Yeah, no, that's really true. Another example, we can get on to talk about incels as well. I'm really interested to talk about that a bit. But another example I used recently in my video about incels is when like black on black crime is brought up. Rightly, people say that's due to socioeconomic conditions that lead people to a position where they do the crime. But then when like incel violence comes up, it's like, oh no, but they're incels, they're just bad. And it's like you're being inconsistent. You need to apply the same framework of how you're analysing problems consistently, right?
Well, I would even go as far as to say is that like if you bring up the fact that men are disproportionately victims of violence in pretty much like every area of society, like maybe outside of like domestic and sexual violence, where it's a lot more like it's a lot more of an equivalent thing because it is an interpersonal thing. But if you talk about like institutions, it's always men who are at the who are like fucked over by this stuff, right?
Yeah.
But then what you'll hear from like the sort of like the lib fem kind of rhetoric, but even to some extent like socialists and communists as well, like this is pretty much like all across the board is, well, who's doing it? Men.
Yeah.
And the point is that, like, yes, but does that matter?
Yeah. Well, it's the equivalent. Well, it's not exactly the same. You know, there are different issues that affect it and stuff. You know, black people have been more like oppressed by society in history. But it's similar to going, oh well, it's black people doing it, right? Like,
it's the black on black crime of it's male on male crime. Because it's male. Because of this like very poor epistemology of seeing men as like the universal oppressor class, it's suddenly okay. It's suddenly to treat them kind of like right wingers, sort of like, and again, I don't think it's the same as the way like right wingers oppress like black people, but it's the similar sort of like attitude, and the reason is because it's a reactionary one. It's failing to fully understand. It's failing to like again. It's not that like I'm a right winger who's like trying to argue that like feminism is evil and has destroyed traditional gender roles or something. There's one article out there at some point that like I basically said like feminism harmed gender roles. I mean gender relations, right? But because I didn't record the call, he just ran with that. I'm like, no, I legitimately straight up like corrected myself within 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And then he went with like the misquote.
Jesus.
I think that is terrible journalism, right?
Yeah.
Especially to like some like 18-year-old YouTuber.
Yeah, of course. Well, that article gets shared around to this day by certain Twitter accounts to kind of denigrate you, right?
Oh yeah, no. The funny thing is, it's like they say I mean, like everyone's like, oh yeah, you're like an incel or whatever, and it's like, no, the thing I said was I wouldn't like have casual sex, like I wasn't gonna have one night stands,
right?
Which you know, like even if you think like the whole like false rape accusation thing is a bit overblown or is completely overblown, like that's not like that's not even like an abnormal thing to do.
Well,
to not
no,
like,
I mean you can decide. The whole point is you decide what kind of.
It wasn't like I was going out like murdering women for false rape accusations. I was literally like, okay, I will get to know a girl first. Holy shit, I'm such a monster.
Yeah.
And that then like, because like half of the people didn't even interview me. They didn't even talk to me. They just like copy pasted the other article and then made it like fucking spicier. So it went from like this guy is potentially not going to like have one night stands, so he won't have casual sex, to like he won't party with women, to he won't ever have a girlfriend, to he doesn't even interact with women.
Yeah.
Which like, and it's like I still like socialize, you know.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Like I go on nights out. I get drunk, and like my group, like my friend group isn't just guys, you know. So like it's so fucking weird to see like the image like people have of me online, basically because of like weird like basically some lazy journalists who wanted to bully an 18-year-old for being a virgin.
Yeah.
It's pathetic, really. But yeah, I think I sort of trailed off there talking about the articles because I haven't spoken about those in ages. We were talking about like feminism failing at intersectionality, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, what I wanted to move on to, because I think that like
incels, right?
Yeah, I wanted to move on to incels because I think that like, you know, what we kind of broadly agree on is that like there are some issues that kind of, you know, do affect men that haven't been discussed. The thing I would say that, you know, we may disagree on this perhaps, you know, but I think that the whole men's rights name is just kind of sullied. So
no, entirely. Like, there's a reason I don't call myself an MRA anymore.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. I don't think the things that I don't think are completely unfair are the idea of like the men's rights movement itself, like the concept of the men's rights movement, at least the stated concept, not the actual one that exists at the moment. And I don't necessarily think the way they criticized. I don't think like all of their criticisms of feminism were like entirely wrong. Yeah. I think to some extent they were they had a point when they were saying, oh yeah, feminists are trying to like harm men's issues, and I think that and like the problem is that most people still think of like the worst of feminism as like cringe compilations, even anti-feminists, right? And even like back in the day, I was the one who was like I was like against this cringy anti-cringe culture thing before it was cool. I was like, look, I actually care about like real issues here.
Yeah.
But I was bringing up like legitimate criticisms of the feminist movement, and I think they're still legitimate. I just don't necessarily like take the hard line, oh, feminism is evil, hate movement kind of thing that I used to.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, and I think for me, one of the issues as well is you know, we've always talked to all about it, but there was definitely, I'm sure you'd agree, in the anti-SJW movement and whatnot, there was this focus on these like YouTube feminists who were just saying things on the internet, totally. Right? And it's like, what the fuck? They're not even doing anything. They're just sat there saying shit.
So yeah, like I'm talking about like the National Organization for Women like harming shared parenting. I'm talking about like fucking like the like academic feminists hiding evidence of male victims of domestic violence for 30 years, or how like the most prominent academic feminist who ever discussed rape, like the mother of rape research, Mary Koss, on the CDC board for sexual violence research and shit. Like pretty much everything, like every single form of like sexual violence research uses her research methods to some extent, right? And she's openly admitted to saying that she doesn't believe men can be raped.
I mean, right? Yeah, exactly. But this is the thing, right? It's like, it's all, you know, I mean, you know, I don't like making the argument of, oh, you should talk about like more important issues or something like that. It's up to you what you talk about.
Yeah.
But for me, it's like, why would you be speaking about a bedroom feminist when there's all this other stuff you've spoken about, which speaks to like a much bigger issue, a much more serious issue? Like, that's the stuff to focus on, surely, right?
Exactly, right? I did a couple of times do like videos on bedroom feminists, right? But every single time, one of those was like most of those were like, oh, this person is saying like feminism is good, and I'd use it as more of like a framing device to talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
But a lot of the time it was I try and find like people who were critical of the men's rights movement and be like, okay, but here are the real issues with that the men's rights movement actually talks about. and why they are like there is a good reason for them to be critical of feminism, right? And the thing is like there's like a long history of people who weren't like openly anti-feminist, who came into the men's rights movement and became that sort of like rabid like feminism as a hate movement thing because of their treatment specifically for talking about men's issues.
Right.
And it really fucking sucks because and that's why I kind of want to talk about it like on the left as sort of as where I am, because like I want that space to exist where you don't have to be like a feminism is destroying Western society kind of guy to talk about this.
Yeah, of course.
I want this to be a genuine. I want this to be something that is we're capable of talking about on the left.
Yeah, I mean,
because it is a discrimination thing at the end of the day.
Well, of course, like the male suicide is like an epidemic, right? Like it's an absolutely atrocious issue.
And I think we can use that to bring to go like segue into the incel thing, right?
Yeah, of course, yeah. Well, I mean, let me just give you a bit of background here. So, I don't know if you saw, but Jacobin released an article about incels.
God.
So, but basically, what they did is, they said in the article, obviously, that they spoke about this film, The Face When No Girlfriend, or sorry, the TFW.
That feeling when, that
feeling when no girlfriend. Yeah. But they spoke about that, and they basically said, okay, overall, the film didn't really address some of the, maybe it was a little bit too generous to incels, but they did raise some interesting points about incels and stuff like that. I can't remember what the title of the article was, but people lost their mind. They were on Twitter,
I'm sure,
molding about
I'm
it.
entirely sure, right?
And I went through the article on stream, and I was like, this article's totally fine. It's correct. Incels are a result of their circumstances. They're not inherently bad people. And
entirely right. Okay, so I've been like DM'd by like in the past like 2 weeks, right? I've been DM'd by like two people in like a really mean way. And they like one of them was like a self-identified incel.
Yeah.
Like openly he was using the incel terminology and shit like that, right? The other guy just seemed to be like he was like an ML or whatever, and he was just like me calling me a fag or something like that, right?
Yeah.
But both of them just seemed to be like internet addicted weirdos. Right, and I don't mean weirdo in like a negative sense, but they're just like they're like loners. They're awkward and don't have much in the way of like socializing opportunities. But like I thought, you know what, I'm gonna like put my money where my mouth is, and I'm gonna talk to this incel guy. I'm gonna what he says, because I think I got into an argument, and so like some right winger called me an incel. I said, "Lol, you're calling me an incel," and then like this incel guy's like messages me like, "You absolutely are an incel. You're ugly like me," and I'm like, "Bro,
what the fuck?"
Yeah. So no, so what I did, because I've actually interacted with a couple of like self-identified incels, and like you kind of have to show your you kind of have to prove to them that you aren't.
Right.
To some extent, for them to listen to you, and so I just showed him like a pic of me on a night out, and it's really funny because it's like I'll say like this, right? I joined this university polo team, right?
Yeah.
And like it's mostly girls. So I was at my uni freshers fair, and I was just ambushed by three really pretty girls. Right. And they're like, "Do you want to join polo?" Three really pretty girls. Sure, okay.
Yeah,
right.
Nice.
And like, so like at the socials on nights out, it's like there's very few guys who do it, because like at uni level, it's unless you're at like Cambridge or like unless you're at like Oxbridge, where it's all like the rich people go.
Yeah.
There's not many guys with like a history of horses or polo who are involved, but there's a lot of like horsey girls at like sort of less like rich unis.
Yeah.
And this was one of the places where like, so the polo team is like there's like two or three guys, and then it's like 20 something girls. So like on the socials on nights out, like sometimes the photos are just me and like 10 very pretty girls who are like out like just me in the middle, looking very proud of myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so like, and
that was enough to show the incel you were actually a Chad, right?
Yeah, well, it didn't show I'm a Chad. It's like they've got a lot of different terminology. Like I think the term would be like Chad light, right?
Oh my
Because
god.
I don't have like the jawline or the hunter eyes for a Chad. Um,
Okay.
uh, yeah, basically, to be a Chad, you've got to look like, say, like Hassan Piker.
Right, got it. Okay.
Actually, one incel did send me a video of like Twitch, like women on Twitch just thirsting over Hassan Piker. Just like proof that like lookism and Chad, like proof that Chads are real. And you know what? Actually, because I do go out and I do go on nights out. Like this, it's a loose stereotype, but like there is truth to it to some extent.
Yeah.
Like you look like that, and it's like catnip to women to some extent.
The thing is, right, this is a real simple thing to think about as a leftist, right? So society is set up in such a way that certain appearances and certain looks you're socialised to find them attractive through media, through films and stuff like that. So certain body types, certain faces, like, it is a thing that happens, you know? But the issue is like, you know, it's like what incels are proposing, like, isn't going to fix that, right? Like,
well, the problem is that for a lot of different things is that for one, and I've had a lot of I've argued with them a lot about this. Is I think it's a very like media cultural thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they're convinced it's like this inherent nature of women that's the problem,
right?
And I genuinely don't. And the funny thing is, it's like one guy I know, who believes this. He actually said he went on Tinder and pretended to be a woman, right? And he's like, I started thinking like this. And I'm like, then clearly it's not like an inherent nature thing.
Yeah,
it's a
exactly.
socialization thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh my god.
Yeah, and basically, right. So I did. So yeah, like that's where I stand on this. Is like most of the dating issues are like they're an issue of like of socialization and stuff.
Yeah.
But like basically, yeah. So I showed to him, right. Oh yeah, like I'm not like I'm not an incel. I get attention from women. What. Yeah. And then and he basically like starts to move into asking for advice, and I'm like and then I find out, oh yeah, like he's unemployed because he like dropped out of uni because he has bipolar disorder. And like and he's now like unemployed, can't find a job, has no friends, and basically spends the entirety of like his time on the internet finding other people with the exact same issue, talking to them, and and that's it. And like you find that like a lot of incels, like they get involved in it like really young as well. Like I once came across this like 14-year-old who was like like self-identified incel.
Yeah.
Like he had a support group behind him as well, who are the group of people online who wanted to help him. I don't want to talk about too much about that because they don't like being advertised. But
right.
Yeah, basically, like the kid, he's a nice kid, right?
Yeah.
He's just like and he was just like this like very sad 14-year-old boy who's still struggling at school, and girls have been mean to him, and then someone and then some like fucking like r/I have sex douchebag on Reddit has called him an incel and said, you need to go to like this incel, you go back to your incel Reddit, you fucking misogynist, right? Because he said like, oh, girls don't like me or something. Yeah. And then he's been driven to all the incel boards and found all of that shit because someone's called him an incel on the internet.
Shit. Right.
Yeah. Like as far as I'm concerned, like the people who are going around calling people incels are like their biggest fucking advertisers. Like if you go and use that as like a throwaway insult, like fuck you. Absolutely fuck you to your core, because you are directly contributing to all of like the suicide and murder that like those communities end up producing. But yeah, so basically, right, is the impression I get from these groups outside of like some of the really toxic areas, like they've got their own levels of toxicity, but like you outside of the really toxic areas, and even within those, they're just like these like guys with like really 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 serious mental health issues, right? Who are being treated like shit because of it, and to some extent just feel like shit because of it, like even if they were having like awesome lives and everyone liked them, But the fact that they're virgins on top of that just like compounds everything and makes them think that they're like completely worthless to society, right? And then like and they're just like farms of depression. They're just fucking miserable.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing, and this links into how in society we view mental illness. And when it comes to men, although there's some progress that's been made, there is still the stigma about being a man and being mentally ill, and it's deeply ingrained in society. It's deeply ingrained in us, the stiff upper lip in the UK, or fucking whatever it is in America. Like this mentality that men should just grin and bear it, get on with it, and deal with it.
Yeah, like the number of guys who have basically said, like you ask guys, right, and they'll say like, oh yeah, like one time I was actually like honest and vulnerable to my girlfriend, and like she just shut down on me, right? Or like like or they actually like pointed out that they were insecure about something, and it's like and like my friends like started making fun of me for it. Like the reason like a lot of there's a lot of stuff like, oh yeah, men should talk more, men should cry more, blah 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 blah. But the problem is that it's not that men aren't the reason a lot of men aren't seeking help is because when they do, they get punished for it. Yeah. It's not that and I think this is kind of a little bit victim blamey to some extent, because like a lot of it isn't about like people who just aren't trying to solve their problems, but because it's men, there is this sort of like do it yourself kind of thing, and it's and I think like I as far as to say is that like capitalism to some extent is basically forcing women to start interacting with this attitude, because they're becoming the same kinds of cogs in the machine that men have been throughout human history.
Yeah.
But like this, like, oh, sort it out yourself kind of mentality bleeds into even like attempts at being sympathetic to men's mental health issues. And it's so common where I see like a feminist talk about it, and then suddenly it goes into like, oh well, men don't do this because like it's not a discrimination against men, it's just like men aren't doing it right. So it's not controversial to say that women tend to have more mutually supportive social groups than men. Well, see, I don't know entirely, because I think it's a bit more complicated than that. I think there is a lot more like open validation, but I think I think men and women do socialize to some extent differently, where it's like the kinds of support you get are different, and this can affect your mental health in different ways, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's a bit more complicated than that. But yeah, like when it comes to like men's mental health and stuff, is that like men aren't given any help. They then I had this like one incel come to me, and he basically said like, why shouldn't I hate women, right? Why shouldn't I blame women for where I'm standing at, right?
Yeah.
And basically he said, look, I'm not supposed to blame the girl for rejecting me. That was her choice. That was what she. That was her choice. That was her consent. I don't want to be that guy who's that like r/nice guy kind of thing, where he like he gets angry at the girl for rejecting him and mean and whatnot. Like if a girl rejects me, I'm just fine with it, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to be like angry at her, but then like he is still miserable and angry because he's lonely.
Yeah.
So where does he like direct that? Does he just like continually blame himself, which just creates like a self-hating depression, which is like what most incels already have anyway? Does he just continue to say like, oh, I'm just not good looking enough, I'm just not confident enough, I'm just not attractive enough, right? Maybe it's I'm a shit person, when I think a lot of people who are lonely just aren't. I think it's just that like people are kind of cunts,
right?
The thing is that like incels are actually disproportionately POC as well, because there is actually like a bias when it comes to dating with.
Wait, hang on, sorry. Incels are disproportionately people of color. Is that right?
Yeah. No, they are like when I joined this. I basically I don't want to again. I think I will hold off on like seriously advertising it, but I was basically part of like I was for a little while a modern incel support group, um, but like but more of them than you would expect, and given this is an English speaking group, were from places like India. There were a lot of them were Southeast Asian. A lot of them were like guys who weren't like very very white. They were all most of them were like they were sort of all over the world.
Right.
But yeah, like India, Southeast Asia, like because there are a lot of stereotypes around like Asian guys, right? Who are like they've got small dicks, they're effeminate, and all that actually tend to hurt, right? That does tend to hurt their prospects in dating because those stereotypes, women do internalize, just like everyone else does. Like people internalize these stereotypes, and that like implicit bias does hurt their chances, right?
I mean, you think about like the Bob's and Regine meme. We all laugh at that, but you are propping up racist stereotypes about Indian men, right? Like,
yeah, exactly, right. And like the stereotype is partially a problem, is because like I think in India, like there are more men than women,
right?
So like there are, and I think this is another issue with China as well, is that there are a lot of guys who like especially in a traditional society where you can literally like marry or nothing, like they're not gonna like be in a relationship, right?
Yeah.
Or they are gonna like some of them are just going to die alone, and that fucking sucks.
Yeah.
Right. Because like again, there's a lot of people who will say, "Oh yeah, no, they're just like entitled to sex," and they blame women for that. No, it kind of does suck to be alone, especially when you don't want to be. If you want relationships, if that's like a part of your life, unless you're like a certain kind of like personality type or like mental condition where like you don't want a relationship, like that's an abnormal thing.
Yeah.
Right. That's a very abnormal thing. It like going into certain like going into a later age without like experiencing sex and relationships is very abnormal, and it does come with like some serious like mental health and even to some extent some physical health issues. Like guys past a certain age, if they don't like if you like past the age of 25 without having sex, you're like you are more likely than not to not lose it till you're 40, till past 40.
Damn.
Because you don't develop the social skills to be able to like date and have sex. So like everyone's just way ahead of you, or you don't have like the social connections and whatnot, right?
Well, what's interesting for me, and this is why when I read about the incels and thinking about it more, I had a little bit more empathy than maybe other people sometimes do, is because I would have been an incel potentially, if not because I was a child, I was into the anti-SJW stuff, but I wasn't like I was, I'm a reasonable looking guy and I can go on Tinder and I can match and I can get dates, right? If that wasn't possible and I'd suffered all this rejection, I could have been an incel.
Yeah, right? And the thing is, like, most of them aren't actually like that bad looking.
Yeah,
right?
No, exactly.
Like the thing is like a lot of these, like, especially like when you're talking about like dating sites, which are like the only options a lot of these guys have, right? Is like they are actually like really bad when it comes to their algorithms.
Yeah.
So like basically, yeah, you can be a perfectly average or even like significantly above average looking guy, and your experience on Tinder fucking sucks. You don't even because they've got a thing called like an ELO score on there, and it messes with like it like takes in a lot of like different metrics on what you do. It's like, so like the metrics like can just fuck you over before you've even started, right? So you don't even get shown to women's accounts,
right?
So you're not even getting likes, let alone matches. And then when you do get likes and matches, then the women on there are generally kind of flaky because they don't necessarily want to talk to a guy they don't know, and because of like the disparity, they've got like 15, 16 guys in their in their matches who are all trying to get their attention.
Yeah.
You've got to stand out, and if you don't, why would they listen to you, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is because like I've done videos about online dating and stuff and explaining kind of how I do it and how it works for me, and it's like I speak to, because I've got a lot of my knowledge on this from speaking to women about their side of it, and it is a lot of guys, hey, how are you, stuff like that. If you don't, it's one thing matching, but you've got to have the social skills to have the conversation to get it to a date, and then you're competing against 40 other people. It's pretty...
and I think the problem is as well, to some extent, is like, and I think this is where like I think like toxic masculinity comes into a problem, and how women actually perpetuate it is because you kind of do have to be a bit of a twat to like you have to be a bit of like an overconfident twat to engage in some of this in the dating game, right?
I mean, I was on Tinder. I was at my most successful being dates, taking it further than that and whatnot, when I was being the biggest dick, right?
Yeah,
when I was being the biggest fuckboy,
right?
I was fucking getting dates left, right, and centre. I was, having sex with this person, that person, just by being an asshole, And then when you go a little bit nicer, it's not as easy. It's a little bit harder.
I was this is a funny story, right? I was once like really fucking drunk, right? And I was at one of these socials with one of the polo girls, and I just started like bragging. I can't remember exactly how the conversation started, but I started bragging about like doing all like the Discord spies thing, because I was just so drunk. I was just like, oh yeah, I'm so fucking awesome. So like this arrogant piece of shit version of me, right? Who really just needs to like take a chill pill, But like the girl who's standing next to me and I'm bragging to, she's like eating it up. She's like, "Oh my god, you're amazing! Oh my god, you're basically a superhero!" And I'm like, "Jesus!" And like looking back, it's the cringiest thing ever. But the point is like that does work. And I'm sure like if this ever gets clipped and like women on Twitter will say, "Oh no, but I like when men are like nice to me and stuff like that." Well, that's not the male experience, really. I remember one time, this is a girl who was like, her mum was friends with my mum, so she was over, but she was over with a boyfriend for some reason. But yeah, like I basically came downstairs, and this was like when I was closest to like the incel stereotype. Like I had like really greasy hair, I hadn't showered properly, so I looked horrible. Right. I had my like long hair, and like I didn't have any friends at the time, and I was like I came down and I basically just like roasted her in front of her fucking boyfriend.
Yeah.
Right. I made some jokes. The sort of the common jokes where it's just like, oh yeah, she's probably like a nightmare to date or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Which it's not like a super douchebag kind of thing, but it's like I was being a bit of a dick.
Yeah.
But yeah, week later she breaks up with the boyfriend and she's in my DMs. I didn't know that was what was going on. So I was just like, oh, she's just saying hi because we've like we've spoken to each other recently. And then a couple months later, my mum's like, oh yeah, I told her I told her mum that you weren't interested. And I'm like, why? Why? Why are you like micromanaging my sex life? Fuck off. So yeah, like the thing is, right, is that especially like when a lot of the people who are like going after incels, and they're like, oh yeah, no, the reason you're an incel is because you're such an asshole, and it's like, no, like have you met a fuckboy in your entire life?
Yeah, I used to be one. I was horrendous. I was like, fuck me. I was really rude to people,
Oh yeah,
and yeah.
Yeah, no, but that's the problem, right? And that's part of the issue. Is a lot of the incels that I've come across just don't have it in them to do it.
Yeah.
I had one guy. Actually, no, this was one incel, right? He actually came into the group and he's like, yeah, I almost got with this girl. And he's like 28, and he's like, he was from some like Eastern European country, like Croatia or something. And he's like, oh yeah, I was like this close to with one girl a couple years ago, and I was like, I was just being an absolute dick and roasting her and doing like the sort of like douchebag PUA thing. and like I was so close, and then I freaked out because I had like anxiety and like and I couldn't go any further.
Well,
Which
that's where
is
the mental
really
health starts to
miserable,
come
right?
in as well, right? Like that affects it too.
Yeah.
And you know,
Oh, of course, right?
Imagine,
This guy was like constantly on suicide watch.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But then like he came back. He also came back at one point, like pretending to be like a PUA red pill Chad type. Like saying, "Oh yeah," and like, "Oh yeah," like I'm like, fucking, gonna like drop some red pills, and he like said that to one of the other members, and then the mods found out and kicked him. But yeah, like I actually and this is actually the reason I ended up getting dropped from the group, because they were like very they didn't want it to turn into like a fight server.
Right.
And I ended up in a lot of arguments with the guy before I with the sort of the fake red pill Chad guy, because he was also like trying to like evangelize Jordan Peterson and stuff like that. And he was trying to like bait me into stuff, and I think he also complained that some of the mods weren't men as well.
Right.
So yeah, so I ended up arguing with him a lot, and they were like, "Oh yeah, you're not supposed to do that as a mod. You just gotta like call in other people or whatever, and give them mute warnings or whatever." But yeah, like but basically they ended up like, because I argued with them too much, they kicked me off of mod status, and then I just sort of like, okay, and then we found that out, like this guy was intentionally trying to bait me. I'm like, is this maybe a good reason to bring me back as mod? No, okay, fine. Look, maybe this isn't the place for me then. And yeah, like this is the real issue, right? Is that like yeah, they do have some real serious issues, and the problem is that like on one hand they've got pretty much like two options, right?
Yeah.
They've got maybe three, right? They've got three. So they've got they've got like the people who kind of like online give them advice, which is, oh yeah, I was you go into like these Reddit threads where they're like, oh, ex incels, what changed? And it's like, oh well, I used to be like really shit and hate women, and then I actually just like suddenly became awesome and stopped hating women, and that's why I'm not an incel anymore. I'm like, really? Really? And like, yeah, and there's so many people who are like, oh yeah, no, like I have sex because I'm awesome, and that's why, and you just need to become more awesome. And it's like, no, you can like this is nothing to do with that. Like at the end of the day, people are kind of like random and arbitrary and kind of dickish.
Yeah.
And like a lot of this, I think the problem is that a lot of people don't really like want to admit that. Is that you can actually be like a really awesome, nice person, and people just hate you because of like preconceived biases.
Yeah.
And that, and then the mental health issues come into play as well. Like a lot of them are like on the autism spectrum as well, so they just don't get social skills at all. Like it just doesn't make sense to them. Which, you know what, most social skills are stupid and arbitrary anyway. And I guess I'm saying that as someone who is also on the autism spectrum, so take that with a grain of salt. But like,
I mean,
yeah,
it's true. Like, you know, and I can even apply it to my own experiences, because thinking back to what I say to women, it was totally arbitrary. It wasn't like, you know, I was saying something magical. I was literally just saying something that wasn't, "Hey, how are you?" You know, but
right. Yeah, like I remember, like what, I was on Tinder this one time, and like a girl had like a mention of Buffy the Vampire Slayer in a fucking Tinder profile.
Yeah.
I just thought, you know what, I'll use that as like a joke, and I made some like really, really cringe like normie tier joke about like being a vampire. I'm like, oh yeah, I don't leave my room, and I've got like dark circles under my eyes or something. Don't stab me.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh my god, is that a Buffy reference? And it's like, oh, okay, I've got it hooked.
Yeah, exactly. You know, you just need to be a little bit interesting, a little bit different, and people will want to talk to you, right? Like,
it's not that. It's that being a little bit interesting and a little bit different is sometimes not necessarily like actually interesting and different.
Yeah.
It's sometimes like painfully bland, but like it's painfully bland in the way that person likes.
Yeah.
In a sort of familiar way.
Yeah, that's so true. Like this one girl that I dated for like, you know, like 6 or 7 months or something. I literally just mentioned her hedgehog that she had in a Tinder profile. I was like, oh, that looks like a cool hedgehog. And from that message came this whole relationship, you know. And it's like,
Yes.
Like literally, all I did was say "nice hedgehog," and that was it. That was enough to get my foot in the door of a conversation. Whereas if I'd have just gone, "Hey, how are you?" she probably would have just fucking ignored me, like all the other people that send her that message, right?
Oh yeah, of course, right.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's genuinely pathetic. Like sometimes how much people want to like put their own personal social success
Yeah.
on like why they're doing well.
Yeah.
And like the one thing I never did when I was when I did have like online notoriety and stuff, I was like, no, I was genuinely just in the right place at the right time too many times. That's why I'm where I am. Like it's not there is no like there is nothing that speaks to my character that did anything about that. It's just I was lucky.
Yeah.
A lot of it was luck. I'm not actually that awesome. But yeah, like and I think like a lot of people. So that's the advice side. So that's your first option. Then you got the second option, which is like try and figure it out for yourself. Pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, which you know, as we know, doesn't really work very well. It's got a failure rate, a very serious failure rate.
Yeah.
And basically a lot of these guys, especially in an increasing situation, because like because of like the climate that we're in at this point, it's becoming harder, right? If I tried to like build a social group now, especially during the fucking COVID times, it'd be horrifying. I am so lucky that I got like I actually had like a social group beforehand, right? But now it's like now I would dread to be someone without like without that safety net, because it's just going to be really difficult. And that was actually what I said to like the incel who called me ugly. I'm like, look, dude, if I knew how to help you, I would give you that advice. But like, I know that any advice that I give is going to have like a real serious failure rate, because it is like a bootstraps kind of situation.
Yeah.
And especially with like your mental health issues, like I don't know how to solve that. I don't know like the coping mechanisms. I'm sure there's better people out there who could give you better advice and people who could help, but like I understand that for some people it genuinely is just like you're just screwed. Like
yeah,
and,
well,
and
the thing is
the problem for a lot of them.
The issue is, and this is the point I made in this incel video, is a lot of this is systemic, you know.
Yeah, it is systemic, right?
And the thing is like, you know, because people was. I remember one person even said like, "Oh, how can this person be the victim of socioeconomic issues? They've got a gun in the picture they're showing of him," and it's like that's
isn't that like the leftist iPhone thing?
Yes, it is exactly. That's what I fucking said, David. That's exactly what I said about it. I was like, it's the same fucking argument that Rightalks make about immigrants and their iPhones or whatever, you know, or people that have an iPhone. Oh, well, they're fine. They've got an iPhone, or they've got a refrigerator. Like, what the fuck? You know?
Yeah, no, yeah, and that's the problem, right? Is sometimes, you know, what you get is like you get like a guy who's like actually he's financially well off, because some of them weren't like poor, but they were struggling with like the social situation.
Exactly.
Because of like
it's socio-economic.
Yeah.
It's not just about you know, the money specifically. It can be about other things within that.
Yeah, because I work in engineering, right?
Yeah.
You can't build like a sort of like a co-ed social group through engineering. They're just like it's a sausage fest.
Yeah.
And like so yeah, like there's a lot of guys in sort of fields like that where they're like, yeah, how do I find friends? How do I find like how do I meet women?
Yeah.
And so they're using like crappy stuff like Tinder.
Yeah.
And yeah, like Tinder it's a complete and utter crapshoot. Because actually one of the other things, right? Because I said like the scoring situation, right? Well, think about this. Because it's a photo app itself, men are like socialized not to care about their appearance as much.
Yeah.
So the guys who have like who actually have a lot of like good photos of themselves, they're like they score high on shit like narcissism, right? So they're already like they already have like a real serious advantage. So like like those guys who are doing really well on there, who have like good photos of themselves and shit, right? They're then like really mean and flaky.
Yeah.
And so girls on Tinder think, oh, guys are mean and flaky, why should I listen to them? And it just sort of like exacerbates the problem further.
Yeah.
So yeah, like there are a lot of issues with that, right? yeah, so it's like, so yeah, the third option that you have with all of this stuff, so you can't like, so yeah, you've tried to get like advice from people, and they've basically been like, oh, just be awesome. That doesn't work. So now you've tried to solve it for yourself, but you can't. You've got like no way to solve it. You have no idea what to do. And then the third is to join this group of people who have the same issue as you, who feel it's as equally hopeless, and they all at least get what you're going through.
Yeah.
And that's a really big issue with like so many like mental health issues and like personal issues is like I like to call them anti-support groups.
Right. Okay.
Right. Like basically they're a group of people who all have like the same like social or psychological issue or whatever, and they all like congregate and then amplify that issue.
Yeah.
They all have the exact same problem, and
shit.
because it's the exact same unsolved problem, and so none of them solve it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, actually no, that's another one in the chat. Just be yourself. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, like just be yourself is like is one of the worst things you can say to someone. I'm sorry. It's especially if someone's actually genuinely struggles with that. It's so like it's so mean, because you're like, oh yeah, to some extent it's like, you know, like what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, and it's like,
yeah.
And to some extent you kind of have to engage in that to succeed in dating, right? You've just got to like do the same thing over and over again, because that's the only like option you have.
Well, another thing that's interesting to me as well is I've got a friend who's a lady that's autistic, and she's been telling me and kind of, you know, educating me a bit about how like autism kind of impacts men and women differently, and I didn't really realize that before, right?
Oh yeah, no, totally. Oh, it really does.
You know, and that with women, there's a, you know, she talked about putting like a mask on, like she's able to put this mask on.
Actually, pretty much everyone on the autism spectrum puts on a mask.
Sure.
Yeah, masking is not like an exclusively female thing. I think it's just like something they tend to be better at because they are socialized better.
Okay.
But yeah, like all of us do that to some extent. I've got to sort of like actively think about like eye contact and stuff like that. Like it's not something that's that like comes naturally. Like, I've got to try to do that sort of thing. And so yeah, and I know it's like trying to program like trying to like program from scratch manually like something that will then be like viewed by machine learning algorithms, and then just to get like as many like of those machine learning algorithms to say, okay, awesome, you know, because I think that's a way to sort of describe the difference between, say, like how someone on the spectrum would learn versus how someone on like someone who's more like neurotypical. It's basically like a machine learning algorithm just sort of like takes things in and then doesn't sort of understand the process, and it gets it wrong all the fucking time, but it just sort of like kind of works, and it's very quick and efficient. But like with someone on the spectrum, it's more like, okay, you've got to like manually program this. You've actually got to like think about this like a I wouldn't say like a hyperlogical level, because I think sometimes that could be a bit like sort of like self-sucky, you know?
Yeah, sure.
But because it's sort of like it comes off like the facts and logic. I'm a rationalist kind of thing. But then there is some truth to that, I think, where you've got to like actually think about it. Okay, does this actually make sense? Like you don't pick up on things in that sort of way, in that sort of subtle, like unconscious way.
Yeah. But no,
and so yeah, like
it's interesting to me because, like, you know, the whole thing for me with it is like, you know, even lefties are guilty of this sometimes, and again, it's because of the way that liberalism works and it affects all our brains. But you know, we are willing to talk about systemic issues on pretty much every fucking level. But when it comes to talking about men, incels, that sort of stuff, you know, because historically it's men that have set up these power structures. It's like, well, men are responsible for this, so fuck men. And it's like, no, it doesn't work like that. Like,
yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
And actually, going back to the autism thing, because I think this is really interesting, right?
Yeah.
So you know how you said like how autism actually treats women differently, right?
Yeah.
Well, here's the really interesting stat. So there's a lot of like if you look up like articles on it or whatever, you'll find women like the suicide rate like increases significantly, like more significantly compared to like women with autism compared to women without autism compared to like men with autism to men without autism, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, like if basically and so there's a lot of like discussion and like and articles and like think pieces about this, right? On how like autism actually harms women more. Well, the thing is that people don't really like look into the stats, and it's really hard to find statistics on it. I'll have to go back and like actually find it because last I checked, the last I actually looked into it was sort of like 9 months ago or so, right? Is that like okay, yeah, but women already don't kill themselves as often as men do.
Yeah.
So what happens when you actually like normalize the stats? Realizing okay, so yeah, like say like okay, I can't remember like let's for the sake of argument because I can't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but like okay, let's say autism increases women's chance of like committing suicide by like 40 times, and men's chance of committing suicide by like 10 times.
Yeah.
But if men are already 4 times as likely to kill themselves,
right, it like stacks
what
up.
happens? What happens? It stacks up, and like if I recall correctly, the suicide rates of men with autism and women with autism are roughly the same.
Right. Okay.
So
Yeah,
basically,
yeah.
what it seems to what seems to be the case is that like being on the autism spectrum kind of just like sucks, and like you like all like the sort of the benefits of the female gender role kind of like just don't help as much when you're on the spectrum.
Right.
And I think part of that is because of like I think the to some extent and there's a lot of like thoughts on like this being like autism being the male brain like the extreme male brain or whatever, but like I'm more on the guess that this is more to do with the fact that like I think the socialization that women get is just generally more geared to neurotypical people. Like it just makes more sense where like the sort of like do it yourself like the do it yourself stoicism thing is just like it's just a bit more like cold hard logic, which is more comfortable for someone on the spectrum. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So like basically like the male gender role doesn't harm them as much because like someone on the spectrum can actually like can actually achieve in that area a little bit better. And basically like you can join a STEM field and it doesn't hurt as much because like because you can exceed in that. Most people on the spectrum like they're good at something within the STEM field. Not everyone. People like so I'm not like I'm generalizing here.
Yeah, sure.
I don't want to like say that I don't want to like come off as like general people on the spectrum or anything, but like yeah, I think like the intersection of like being on the autism spectrum and gender is like a really weird and interesting thing, and I think it would be and I think it needs more discussion because I think like there are a lot of negative stereotypes that men face, but then there's also like a lot of positive stereotypes that men face, and I think like the way that those interact with each other put like guys in these very weird positions, especially when they're on the spectrum. And I think one of them is very often they struggle to find friends and struggle to find social groups because imagine you're autistic and then you're like you're seen like okay you're a bit brainier than like the other kids, so you're like in that gifted kid kind of paradigm. So you're like told to just focus on school. Don't worry, the friends and relationships will come.
Right.
And maybe if you were neurotypical, that might be true. If you were just like someone with like an average ability to gain social skills, that would just happen to you.
Yeah.
Right. But then if you're on the spectrum, you do actually have to put some real serious effort and work into it. And even if you're not, like sometimes just like just by sheer bad luck, you need to put effort in and work into it. Like you're just unlucky and it doesn't just happen for you. And I think like the reasons why it doesn't just happen to you are hard for a lot of people to accept. Like things like discrimination and stereotypes and whatnot. People don't want to necessarily talk about them because it's not like the woke liberal thing to do.
Yeah.
To say like, oh yeah, actually men are fucked over in this a little bit more, and it's not even like entirely men's fault, because like when a girl's like, oh yeah, like when we were talking about like, oh yeah, girls like it when you treat them like a dick or whatever, or at least they respond to it better, I think would be a better
way. That's probably a better way to put it.
Like respond to it in a way, like in a way that you want, right? Because I've seen a lot of women say, "Oh yeah, well yeah, no, but we don't actually like give those guys relationships. We just have sex with them." And it's like, yeah, but like guys like that just want sex anyway, so you're giving them exactly what they want.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So yeah, like there's a lot of So yeah, basically in that sense, right? Like I think this is in some ways like. I'm not like entirely judging. I'm not entirely blaming women for everything, because there's a lot of like massive systemic issues here. But like, yes, to some extent, this is how a lot of women perpetuate like patriarchy and toxic masculinity and gender roles, right?
Yeah.
Is by basically like treating men like shit, or just ignoring them, especially in the dating scene, by just like. By saying like if they don't live up to these shitty standards, right?
Yeah, I mean,
that makes sense?
And the thing is as well is there was a whole fucking TV program called The Undateables, which prominently featured a lot of autistic people, right?
Yeah. Oh, totally. I there's a part of me that like I kind of hated that show, because it's like, oh, let's look at like these people who can't date, ha ha ha.
Yeah, it was almost like a kind of almost like trying to be a freak show, almost. You know, it was kind of like that element.
Yeah, it really was. It was horrible.
Yeah,
it was horrible. It was like mostly like people with like mental health issues and shit.
Yeah.
And like disabilities and whatnot. And like there was sort of like this ha ha ha, we're laughing at them, but at the same time it was pretending to like be supportive as well.
Yeah, it's like the commodification of people's suffering. In my mind, it's almost like a way of commodifying people's suffering. Do you know what I mean? To like, you know, but we're doing it nice. We're getting them on dates, so it's all good. But really, deep down, you know, they know what people are watching for. They want to laugh at the freaks, you know.
Oh, L. Ron Hubbard, yeah, he just said a lot of folk, particularly women, will tell you they want the truth all the time. Try giving it to them and see how popular you are. Yeah, no, it's fucking true. You've just got to lie to people a lot. On little things, right? You just gotta like, or just not tell them what you think.
Yeah.
I don't know. Sorry. But yeah, but yeah, back to the back to that point. Yeah, like it was very like Jeremy Kyle-ish, where it was like there was like we're helping these people, but like in reality they were just making fun of them.
Yeah, definitely.
And yeah, and this is like part of the problem, is that we don't really want to talk about this, is because like this problem's increasing, right? There are like an increasing number of guys who are like struggling to find relationships in sort of the modern age, and like over the past like 10 or so years, it's gone from like something like 9 or 10% to like 30%, right? Of guys like between like 18 and 25 who are like virgins.
Yeah.
And that's messed up, right? That shouldn't be happening. And like someone's gonna say, oh, well, you're not entitled to sex or whatever. But then like, I haven't ever heard someone who says that who like regularly who doesn't regularly get laid. Like have you ever like, you know, the sort of person, right? They're like, oh, relationships don't actually matter, right? And then like they break up with their like significant other, and like suddenly they're like completely destroyed for like months.
Yeah, exactly. That's so true.
Yeah. Or how this, right? Yeah, they'll say like, oh, relationships don't matter, right? Yeah, and then you'll take their advice and say, oh yeah, I'm just not dating, right? And they'll be like, what are you doing? Like, relationships are like the most important thing in your entire life. And so yeah, like there's a lot of this, because I think part of it, right? And this is where I get into like my sort of like 80s nerd, Revenge of the Nerds type attitude, is that yeah, a lot of people just hate like they hate the unpopular people just because they're unpopular. It's like a self-perpetuating situation.
Yeah.
Where it's not even like social skills. It's like if people already like you and already think you're awesome. Where like yeah, like if you're not, it's kind of like I think it goes back into like reactionary politics in general, where like the people who need help the least are the ones who get it the most.
Right. Sure.
And this is kind of like that sort of low key part of like human socializing, where a lot of this comes from. Is a bit more like deeply ingrained. I don't think it's like something that you can't like slowly unlearn. But the problem is it's a very like it's a very sort of like I think it's sort of like the origin of reactionary politics, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Definitely. And I think, I mean, it's interesting. I've been keeping my eye on chat, and whilst having this conversation, people have come in, and it's almost like they're incensed that people would dare to speak about, issues that kind of affect men. Do you know what I mean? But it's like, and I think I know where it comes from. It comes from this idea that, well, men created the patriarchy, and we live in a patriarchal society, right?
Yeah.
Like,
or it's like, oh yeah, you like you need or what you're not entitled to relationships or something like that, and it's like, no, it's like look, like people want them, and people are generally like happier and healthier with them. So and most people have it, right? Most people get access to this, so like the people who don't are gonna feel like even worse about it.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. And it's like, how do you fix that? Because there's the meme of like the state mandated girlfriend, and obviously that's absurd.
Yeah, and obviously that's absurd. I genuinely do think like one thing that could be done is, for one, we need to fucking get rid of dating like dating apps,
Tinder.
Or at least like completely retool them.
Yeah.
Because they're just fucked up. Like I think. If we're gonna go with shallow, right? If we're gonna go with like shallow, don't do don't do men's faces. Shut off, turn off the face thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get rid of like the image. Get rid of like the image side for men, because this is part of like the socializing thing, right? Yeah. And I remember one girl saying, "Oh yeah, it should be men's voices instead." So they got to say something. They got to talk about something, right?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Because if they're going to be shallow, right, they might as well be shallow about something they're going to be hearing a lot. Because apparently they don't care about appearance, right?
Well,
why would they need?
I think the core issue we're speaking to there is the fact that these dating sites are capitalist inventions designed to make money.
Of course, yeah. No, I've also said that like at the end of the day, no dating app is ever going to work, because it's just like a for-profit job site, in the sense that like they are incentivized to keep you on there as long as possible, and to like buy their like premium subscriptions and shit.
Yeah.
And if you matched with the first person on there, right, and got a date, if they were really good, matched you with like the person that like the perfect person for you, you went on the first date, and then you like had a relationship for 10 years. That's 10 years without someone on Tinder.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They don't want that. They want to keep you on there. Right?
Yeah.
So they're actually incentivized to not have you on it.
Well, it's gamified as well, right? Like when you get a match, it's exciting and stuff like that. I've been on dates with girls that have been on like, Tinder and whatnot, and then they've like gone straight back on there after we stopped dating or whatever. Like it's addictive, right? Like it's like, fuck, I've got to go back on there.
Yeah, it's designed. Yeah, it's not designed to actually help you. They are monetarily incentivized to not help you, and to like and to keep you on there as long as possible. Like it's only the prospect of being helped that they really need to that they really need to build. And so like every single person who's like, oh yeah, I got a girlfriend off of Tinder, and then like, yeah, you should try it, and it's like, no, don't. Like I say to everyone, don't even fucking bother. You are never going to solve this dating issue with like dating apps or dating sites. No service that is like privately funded, that makes money off of failing will ever succeid. And I think the same with like employment as well. But yeah, like you can't really do a state. You can't really do.
I kind of disagree with you a bit, because I think the problem you've got is like, I think there is some utility in Tinder if you use it correctly.
Maybe, maybe.
But I think that the problem is you do need to engage in certain types of behavior in order to be successful on there. So
you need a certain temperament to use it, and it's Like I sort of realized it wasn't for me. Like I'm more of like an in-person kind of guy.
Yeah, sure. But
yeah, like
don't get me wrong. Like I don't like Tinder specifically. Like my ideal, if I could clip my fingers, solution would be to have like I don't know. People are joking about nationalising Tinder, but a service that isn't reliant on the profit motive. That might help.
A service that isn't reliant on the profit motive. But yeah, no, actually, you know what? Joking about nationalising Tinder, that actually might be the best of bad solutions.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm not even joking. Like at the very least, there isn't a profit motive there.
Yeah.
And but then at the same time, could you imagine like the UK government doing that?
Oh god, the Tories! Holy shit! Fuck that.
Well, not even if it weren't just like the Tories, but could you imagine like that service being run by the same kinds of people who like work for, say, like the Department for Work and Pensions, and like you have to phone up like support, like because your account was banned for some stupid reason, right? And then you hear that. Hey, I want to go back on the dating site. I want to get laid.
Sorry, I sent a dick pic against someone's wishes. I'm very sorry. Let me back on. I won't do it again.
I sent it to the wrong person. Like the other girl was asking for it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that like some of these issues and a lot of issues that we talk about on this platform and stuff and in these lefty spaces, they are much bigger than we can ever hope to fix in like a conversation like this, right?
Of course, right. And again, that's sort of what I said to that like incel guy is like all the issues you're sort of facing from are bigger than me, and all I can really do is talk about those issues that you're facing, and like kind of maybe shift the culture in the direction and maybe like make people a bit more sympathetic.
Yeah.
And that's about it. And unfortunately, that's where we're at. But like, I don't think that these are. I think this is something that needs to be incorporated into left-wing activism. I don't think that this is in any way in opposition to sort of like progressive values.
Well, the thing is, none of it is at all. What is an issue is what's happened in the past, which was the men's rights activism stuff. And it's like, for me, it's like, let's move it past that. It's fucking in the past now.
Yeah, like, and I'll say like, MRA's like hung out with Rouge Fee and shit. Like fuck him. Right?
Yeah.
Fuck all of that shit. Like and actually like as much as like a lot of Paul Elam's articles were like actually just dumb clickbait, right? Like he didn't actually like like there was one article that like got really popular and was the reason like they tried to take down a voice for men. It was called Bash a Violent Bitch Month.
Right.
And it was actually a response to you familiar with Jezebel? It's like a
Jezebel,
basically they wrote an article say like basically. And this was open, right? This is sort of like early 2010s, right? Oh yeah, lol, we hit our boyfriends. This is an open feminist. This is an open feminist rag, just like joking about how we actually abuse our boyfriends. So he wrote it in response to that, right? He wrote this article like saying, oh yeah, I'm now saying this month is like hit back. If your girlfriend is beating you up, hit back. And then after like it seemed a little bit like fantasizing about violence, but it was a little uncomfortable, and I would not write the same thing.
Yeah.
But then then part of the way through the article he's like, but I'm not actually going to advise you do that, not because it's wrong, because like fighting back against your abuser is not wrong. Yeah. I think that's a fair thing to say, even if like I think maybe it like he was suggested going quite a bit far. But he said, look, no, it's not worth like the fact that you're still going to be discriminated against in police and whatnot, and right that. And yeah, like just like it, like this isn't going to be solved with violence.
Yeah.
This isn't going to be solved with more violence. And so that was an actual like satire article. Like the article itself wasn't actually bad. It was just a very sort of like, it was bait. It was fucking bait.
I guess that makes the argument of like, just even if your opponents are doing some dumb shit, you've got to hold yourself to a higher standard because otherwise you're.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
and to some extent that was what we were always arguing. There was always like this argument within the men's rights movement was, okay, like, do we just like start doing all of like the tactics that like feminists use against us, where we start like being shit, and like the argument was always, actually no, we can't get away with that like they can.
Yeah.
And even if we could, it would be wrong. And basically, like, at the end of the day, right, those articles were bait, but then there was some genuinely dodgy stuff every now and then.
Right, sure.
Like, there was one article where he was like trying to argue that because of like the prevalence of false rape accusations, that like you can't trust the justice system at all. As far as like shit like faking evidence.
Right.
And he so he said like that like if you're ever on a jury for a rape trial, you should just acquit even if you think he's guilty.
Oh Jesus.
And like this wasn't a satire article. He was 100% clear about this. And I also ended up arguing with another MRA leader, Dean Esme, about it. And he's just like, yeah, but you don't understand like some of the cases we've seen. And I'm like, look, I don't care about the cases you've seen. If you've seen the dodginess on those cases, that you've got to bring that into the justice system. It's like, could you imagine like a Black Lives Matter activist saying like, if a black person's ever on a criminal trial, like acquit them, even if you think they're guilty. It's like, and then like even if they went as far as like make like cases about how like the prison system is actually worse and whatnot, like there is a level of like upholding society that is genuinely more important than like an individual case of human rights. Unfortunately. Like I still think like as bad as the current system is, and I know I'm going to be in a disagreement with some like with some activists on this one, is that it is genuinely better than like it's genuinely better than nothing. It's better than nothing.
Well, it's probably the best system we've so far found to deal with it, right?
I mean, like, and there are variations on it, right? There are variations. Like, say, like Norway, like Norway and sort of like the Scandinavian countries have much more have a much more like humane prison system, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, you can go into that direction as well. But yeah, the problem is that there is this sort of like discrimination, and so yeah, like I think in that case, like I couldn't agree, and I thought that was like unconscionable to agree with. So I was like, and like it was clearly something that like with the sort of baby boomer Gen X side of the men's rights movement, that like the sort of millennials and Zoomers were like, bruh, no, let's not do this.
Yeah.
And like pretty much all of them have fucked off now. Like they're all like pretty much like every Zoomer that I know who like was involved, had any like interaction with men's rights stuff, is like hardcore lefty now.
Yeah.
Right. Like I still talk to a couple of them. Some of them were further left of me nowadays.
Well, I think the thing for me, and this again, it goes back to the NTSW stuff and the all that shit. But some of the answers that people seek are in leftism and looking at it from like a Marxist lens and analysing it that way, right?
Analysing it with like a I wouldn't 100% say like a Marxist lens, but just like a lens that doesn't like automatically assume that capitalism is the good thing. Just like I don't know.
What I mean by Marxist lens is when you accept that every single person is largely the consequence of their material conditions.
Yeah.
That's when you can start to see like men are facts too, as well as this person, this person, this person.
Yeah, that's a good point in the chat as well. Yeah, MRA groups are mostly like 35 plus family divorce court guys, right? That's a really big issue, right? So like most of them are genuinely just like guys who can't see their kids and shit, right? So
Fathers
I
for
actually
Justice.
like Fathers for Justice. I actually went to a group. It was a group. I think it was Families Need Fathers, right? It's like it was one in Cardiff when I was at uni there. Like do you know what it wasn't actually like a group. It was one guy. Like I went to a couple meetings and he's literally like standing there like, like talking to this like guy who was probably a couple years older than me, maybe about my age, a couple years older, I don't know. And he's like, really soft spoken. He's brought like two of his friends with him because he's like so terrified of what's going on. And like he's just kind of like close to breaking out in tears, talking about how like he wants to see his daughter. Like he had a girlfriend and he had sex with her. He got her pregnant, and then like they had a falling out while she was pregnant. They broke up, and now he can't. He has a custody. He has like a not a, sorry. He has visitation rights, but then like the mother is just like, yeah, whatever. Like you can't see her anyway. So like he has like legal visitation rights, but then like they're not enforced.
Yeah.
And so he's going to this group like, oh yeah, I just need help with this, and it's like this one guy giving him legal advice and saying, okay, like basically what you got to do is like is you got to try and like exploit the parts of the law that are written in a perfectly gender neutral way. Like he says, okay, so are you? So one of the questions is, oh yeah, like are you a victim of like violence or abuse? And like first he says no, and then the guy, and then he says, wait, no, you said you can't see your kids. You said your like ex is trying to stop you from seeing your kids. Wouldn't you say that's causing you a significant level of psychological harm, right? Yeah. Wouldn't you say that's potentially an abusive thing to do? And then you see the cogs turning in his head, and then he says, have you ever been a victim of violence or abuse? And he says, yes. So like this is and that is the help for fathers, pretty much. That is the help for like men who can't see their kids. Is like it's like a couple guys with like who know way too much about family law.
Right. Sure.
But yeah, like that is mostly a generational thing. Like at the end of the day, like most guys, like guys my age, right, who aren't even really having kids at this point, like we're struggling in a lot of different ways. And those ways, and the fact that we have sort of grown up with a lot less of the sort of like trad values of sort of 20, 30 years ago, gives us a very different like perspective on how to deal with men's issues. We don't think it was better 30 years ago. We don't think that like, oh yeah, all we need to do is just like put women back in the kitchen and things will be solved. Like it's like we want to move forwards, but we want to move forwards in like a way that also helps us. We don't just want to shift towards like in the same sense that like it's the difference between sort of like liberals and socialists, where it's like, yeah, no, we don't just like want to like move forwards in the direction that capitalism is already going. We want to actually like move towards a world that is actually like better, and has like less of this wealth inequality and shit. And I think that's really the direction we're going at this point. I'm hoping that like the men's issues thing does sort of slowly get better, but I don't know, you know.
Well, I think that like, you know, obviously the way that these issues intersect with class is important as well, you know.
Oh no, totally. Like like when I say that like it needs to be involved in intersectionality, I mean it needs to be involved in intersectionality. One really good example of this is actually with race. Is that like when I was talking earlier about like with the incel thing, where I was talking about like how like Southeast Asian guys are very often like stereotyped as like effeminate and like way too horny and stuff like that, right? Well, actually, another good example is how hypermasculinity is weaponized against black men, right? Is that is the example, and you see that example with like when it comes to police shootings, where it's like, oh yeah, they're like super predators, and oh well, he's a boy, but like he's actually basically a man. Come on, you know. and like the idea of like the big black guy who's scary, right? Like
Yeah.
that's all like the negative effects of like even living up to the masculine stereotype,
Yeah.
right? That is what you get if you win the toxic masculinity game. But it's in a way it's weaponized against them to hurt them, and I don't necessarily think that is exclusive to conservatives.
Yeah, no, it's not. And again, you know, for me as a lefty, it's kind of recognizing how liberalism is in all of our brains. We're socialized to it from birth, right?
Oh, totally.
And, you know,
yeah, totally.
That's part of the issue. But and often, although some lefties engage in it, this sort of like, you know, girl boss type feminist shit does come from liberals, right? And it's their.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing is that we do have to sort of come to terms with the fact that like that, and I'll repeat it again. It's like feminism did originate from like upper class women.
Yeah.
Like say like the suffragettes, right? They were like they weren't the people who got universal suffrage. Around the time of the suffragettes, most men couldn't vote either because it was like linked to like property rights and shit.
Right.
So like you'll see like you'll see like photos or of riots or of like protests or whatever, and the police are like arresting them. And you think, oh, this is men oppressing women, right? But the police themselves at the time weren't property owners. They couldn't vote either.
Yeah.
There was like a universal suffragist movement that was like that was sort of like forgotten by history, and everyone talks about like the suffragettes like Susan B. Anthony. It's like no, they were like racist rich white women who didn't want black men to vote.
Wait, is that true?
Yeah, no shit, right? You look at like prominent suffragettes. They talk about like if like black people get the vote before women, then like society has fallen apart.
Oh shit. Damn.
Yeah, no shit. They were really racist, and also I know in America the suffragettes were also very connected to the Women's Christian Temperance Union. Right. So like, you know, the people who created fucking what was it prohibition.
Right, shit.
They basically said that like men drinking alcohol weren't having enough sex with their wives. Like that was one of the issues was, oh, it's harming women because men aren't having enough sex with us. Like and we say incels are entitled to sex. They literally banned alcohol. Well, they literally campaigned to ban alcohol to stop guys from getting whiskey dick.
Yeah, that's fucking crazy. I've just got someone in chat saying you're not going anti-feminist, are you? Well, no, I'm not going to go. No, I'm not going anti-feminist. The thing is, for me,
this isn't anti-feminist. This is like trying to live up to the standards that like feminism created, right? This is like just bringing like at the end of the day, we like what we call feminism is sometimes like it like at the end of the day it is a very like diverse and wide and complicated thing to talk about. And so yeah, like being critical of like a lot of this stuff doesn't necessarily mean that like you're against it. It just means that you understand that like the flaws of this system. You know, like I'm not a police abolitionist. I'm someone who advocates that like, yes, police did originate as like a way for the upper class to like fucking to just like protect their property rights, but like the function of police should be to uphold like the rules of society and keep things in place and serve the public. Right.
Yeah.
And that is like, and they're in this sort of like weird this sort of like awkward like sort of awkward double stage of like where they're sort of purported to do that but don't entirely succeed at this goal. And that's the real problem, right? Is that like a lot of these very like upper class these were originally like feudalist systems have been built into capitalist systems, and now we want to build them into sort of like a more either like socialist or social democratic system, like depending on what kind of leftist you are. And in both of these cases, like it's harder to do because it's hard to do because it's hard to even get them to admit that there is a problem.
Yeah.
But like I think eventually this will it will sort of over time solve, if I'm not going to go like 100% doomer, because I do think that like it has improved. But yeah, it's just like, you know, more work needs to be done within feminism to understand like how they're failing at their own intersectionality to some extent. Like that's really it. Is that like we're not 100% living up to our own leftism, and I don't think that means that I'm anti-leftist. That means I'm like, guys, we got to do better, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. It's funny just thinking through my interactions in the lefty spaces that I'm involved in and stuff. No one ever really is like, I'm a feminist. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not like an identity people wear on their sleeves.
Yeah,
so much.
I think the feminist thing has kind of started to die as a term, because it's hard to it just starts so many arguments, and what it actually means is so watered down these days. I think it's better to just say you're like in favor of gender equality, and like and then sort of go from there.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, like there isn't like there's so much baggage to the term.
Like the men's rights movement, I think it's the same thing.
It's the same as the MRA. Like I would like a term that would be able to discuss like that would like be able to like denote me. But any like term I create, I know would get co-opted by chuds.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the thing I'm scared of. Is like I say, okay, well, I'm going to be a men's advocate, or I don't know, I'm going to be like a male advocate. You know, I can't think of anything on the top of my head because I'm terrible at that sort of thing. But like, if I come up with a label, I am sure I will find a place where it will it will find that chuds will find a way to co-opt it and turn it into like a baton to beat against feminism. So like I want this to sort of become more like a like I want this sort of like wokeness on men's issues to kind of just like slowly bleed into leftism in the mainstream.
Yeah.
And you know what? I think over the past like 5 or so years it has.
Yeah. No,
like,
I think it has. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that lefties are more willing to engage with it.
If you walked around like in 2014 and you brought any right, people would look at you like you're a fucking weirdo.
Yeah.
Yeah. They think, what the hell are you talking about? And then like actually like one person I knew, right? Like one of the normies that I knew, like I saw her posting like a Fathers for Justice Facebook post, shaming Amber Heard for like committing domestic violence or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like that is progress, and that's in what, like 6 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Chud logic. They don't go on about it, but I'm pretty sure every leftist I follow online would call themselves a feminist if asked. And I think to some extent, yeah. I think I've got like too much of a history and baggage to say that like to really like seriously call myself a feminist. And I think there's a lot of like there's a lot of other associations, especially if you're a man who's a feminist, like a man who calls himself a feminist. There's a lot of like assumptions about like stigmas, and a lot of it comes down to like a lot of guys who like are very very openly proclaim their feminism,
exactly,
like aren't great, especially with women. Like I know like I know right wing groups have like issues of like sexual harassment and stuff in them as well, but like I'm sorry, but like yeah, like there is an issue of like male feminists like turning out to be like sex pests in some form.
Yeah, I've seen it in my community. Not my community, but like the broader left community of people who are so-called feminists.
I've been in like chats, and like it's been like, oh yeah, this guy has got like some accusations behind him. There was one guy who used to go around. He was like, I can't remember what he used to go by. I think it was Mindset.
Right.
He was like he was like a guy who like used to own chuds before it was cool, basically.
Right.
And then it started to become cool. And then someone found out like oh yeah, he was like arrested for like domestic violence, and it turned out that like, he was just like a complete and utter twat who was just addicted to Twitter and like was owning chuds on the internet while his wife was giving birth.
Yeah.
Like
Jesus.
so yeah, like there is an issue of this sort of thing. Like it happens, And maybe or maybe not, it happens like less within like feminist spaces, and it's just that they're more commonly found um, because of like a slightly higher level of vigilance. But at the same time, there is still that stigma, and there is still that like implication there. And I don't know. I don't think the calling yourself a feminist really comes with any benefits. If that makes sense, especially if you want to like convince chuds as well.
Yeah, sure. I mean, if someone asked me, like, yeah, maybe I would, but I just don't really see the point in kind of having this label. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
no, I
concerned with
agree.
the emancipation of like all working class people, and yes, some people have got it harder than others when we look at it through intersectionality, and maybe there's extra focus needed. But yeah, it's like everyone. It's about everyone, right? Like, and someone said in chat, we need to take the term egalitarian back from being like a centrist cudgel to use against feminism to being an actual term, because it is a term with a legitimate meaning.
Exactly. Yeah, totally. Right.
Yeah.
I think it was. And okay, this is where I'm going to say like take this with a grain of salt because I don't actually know this, but I think the term egalitarian was coined by the original suffragists. Right.
Yeah.
It's actually funny because like the origins of terms are really funny to look into. Like, do you know this? The term centrist was originally used to like denote third positionism.
Oh shit, was it? Fuck.
Yeah, yeah. The term centrist that was actually coined by third position fascists.
Oh fuck.
Um, and it like some fucking like galaxy brained like liberals online, liberals who are right wingers but don't really want to call themselves right wingers online,
Yeah.
started calling themselves centrists, not realizing what that term actually meant.
Oh shit, that's quite ironic, isn't it?
Yeah, it's fishhook theory.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, listen, we were supposed to be going for 2 hours. We're going for
We,
2 hours.
we
and
were
50
supposed to be going
minutes.
for 2 hours. We've almost gone 3.
I know it's pretty wild. I do need to start to wrap things up soon. But what I want to do
Yeah.
is I'm interested in a few questions for you specifically. So let's say there's like an incel listening to this. What would you say is like not the solution to their problems? I know that's not possible. What's one small step that they can take towards potentially moving out of that ideology? Do you think?
Try something different. Like the world is fucked up at the moment. Be adaptable. And actually, this is wider advice than just incels. To be honest, this is anyone with a problem. Is that like the one thing I've found is try and learn how to learn how you learn things quickly, and just start trying different things. Because I didn't like succeed on my first tries, right? You gotta be consistently trying different shit. And unfortunately, like just because you're failing now doesn't mean you'll fail forever,
Yeah.
right? And I know that's hard for people to think. I know it feels like forever, and like I understand the insecurity because I was there at one point, but like yeah, you gotta. There isn't really any. Unfortunately, there's no one else there to help you. Unfortunately, that there isn't like there isn't a system in place. There isn't a support. There aren't any like official support groups. There aren't really like programs to solve this. There's pretty much just you and your bootstraps, and unfortunately, that's where we're at this point.
Yeah.
And the only thing you can really think is just whatever you're doing right now, do something different. Just like join a new group. Like try something that you think you might not like, because when like 3 pretty girls like ambushed me and said, "Do you want to join polo?" Right? I was like, I don't know what the fuck this is, right? Like I would not have like signed up for a polo club, but you know what? It's really fucking fun.
Yeah.
So try it. And that does require a bit of initiative, and sometimes when you're on the depression scale, that's difficult to do. So again, I don't know if I can help you, but I can all I can do is give like some vague advice that can sometimes help.
Yeah.
And be adaptable, try different things, and like throw everything at the wall and see what sticks is the best option you have.
Okay, cool. And have you got any plans to do any more YouTube videos? Do you think, or is that?
Well, the problem is like Maybe I would, but I have so much going on at the moment. Yeah, even during COVID, like my apprenticeship course is sort of like picking up speed. I still got like the Polo Society to interact with. I've got like I work full time on top of all of that. Um, and and then I don't know if my like martial arts class is going to start picking up either. So it's like I actually don't have a huge amount of free time
Yeah.
to like make videos like once a week. But I don't know. It depends on the situation, because I was never really someone who was like very um big on like writing videos from scratch. I did like the response video format because it was like easy. Um, so I don't know how like how productive that would even be. I think I'm just gonna shitpost on Twitter for a while until I really get my head around if I were to do content, what I would do.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, well, the final thing I always tend to ask people that I've either made content now, I've made content in the past. If someone's listening and they're an aspiring content creator, or they've just started out and they're looking to kind of grow and whatnot, what advice would you give them?
I'm gonna be honest. This is me being 100% honest. Don't.
Okay.
Don't. I have had my family stalked. I have had people approach me in person. I have and like I have there are still, even though I am like a fucking weird nobody online with like a couple thousand followers on Twitter, there are still weird forums that stalk me to this day, because I got involved in online politics when I was a teenager and started some shit. And the thing is, that can and will happen to you more like, and the bigger you are, the more likely that is. And every single like professional YouTuber I know and have known is like miserable and depressed and has like and struggles to make friends and shit. Like I don't think that this is a healthy thing to want or aspire to. But maybe that's just my own personality not meshing with it very well. But like it's very difficult to like you're in a very oversaturated market anyway. Unless you're doing really good work, don't bother. And that's not because I don't like more content, because I do. I'm saying like for your own like mental health sake, I personally don't think it's worth it.
Yeah, I think I kind of balance that and say I see where you're coming from, and I think the way I'd put it is like
I think certain people do have the temperament for it.
yeah. I think people my thing is like, if you're coming into this for fame, don't bother. I've got
totally. Yeah,
I've got like a small tiny amount of prominence, and it doesn't do anything for you really. Do you know what I mean? It's
yeah.
You might get the odd message of someone saying you're cool, but that's it.
I am so much happier now that like that no one gives a shit about me.
Yeah.
Like when I post like a slightly controversial quick tweet, no one gives a shit.
Yeah.
That is so much. That's a much like happier time in my life. I stick to like IRL normie shit. At some point, I should post like fucking Virgin Online leftist versus Chad normie.
Yeah, do it. That'd be so good. I'd love that.
Yeah, but yeah, like but yeah, no, like no, like at the end of the day, you're like, most people don't want fame; they want like friends.
Yes.
And it's not a replacement.
Yeah.
And the only other advice is as well is meet your heroes and realize how painfully average these people are.
True. Yes.
How many content creators like have you interacted with? You thought were like amazing, like amazing, like practically like superhuman. You like actually talk to them and like, I'm just a guy.
Yeah. Yeah, so true. It's so true. Like,
like, and like I think like to some extent, like if you're like very prone to like the fanboying thing, that can be a slightly traumatic experience, but it's worth going through.
Yeah.
Because like otherwise simping for content creators will just like continue. Like I think I was done really well by just like not having parasocial relationships, because like all the content creators that like I liked, I was sort of big enough to interact with to some extent. So there was actually like a social side to it. And then I sort of ended up like in private chats and stuff, and they're all cunts. I remember someone saying like oh, YouTubers suck, and no, like I hate YouTubers, and then someone said in the chat like, oh, sorry, no offense to any like YouTubers here, and I'm like, no offense, we suck.
It's that speaks very true to me. You know, like we're all human, right? Like fucking, I end a stream, I go and take a shit. I fucking go and get something to eat. You know, I watch fucking the newest episode of The Heroes, just like anyone else does when they finish their day at the office or whatever. You know, it's like we're not super beings. You know, and it's like I think you saw my post on Twitter where I said like, you know, that Daisy Cousins person charges $75 to speak for 10 minutes on fucking Skype, right? And it's like, you know, someone said, you know, would you, if I paid you $75, would you speak to me on Skype? And I said no, because what would we talk about for 10 minutes? Like, I'm just a regular person. Do you know what I mean?
Like 10 minutes with me isn't worth that much.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Give me fucking a couple of bucks.
I guess it depends on what kind of 10 minutes, you know.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is, Daisy Cousins was like shitting on sex workers, so I covered it on stream. I was like, I wonder what's going on in those 10 minutes with Daisy Cousins, you know. But
no. To basically, as far as I'm concerned, like the issue with like sex workers and OnlyFans is like the like slight issue I have with that, with the parasocial relationships, like it's the same issue I have with like Twitch streamers and a lot of these like online politics commentators. It's all the same. It's like you're finding lonely people and then asking them for money to like interact with you, and that rubs me the wrong way, even when it is sex work, and I know a lot of them are struggling as well. Like it's sort of like just a shit situation all the way around. But like when you're talking about like these content creators that are already making a fuck ton of money, fuck you. Fuck you for like trying to like get like 15-year-olds to cough out mummy's credit card.
Yeah.
You know, it's why I deleted my Patreon. I'm like, I don't want to make money off of this anymore.
Yeah.
Like I just find like the money issue just awkward, and I don't like. I know you've got like you got your pot noodle fund there.
Yeah.
I'm not saying like other people are like bad if they do it. It's just like there are definitely people who definitely take it too far. Like, every single time I showed my Patreon, it was for a joke or whatever. Like I put very sad music, and I'm very sad, and like my life sucks. And, like
I think it's like, I think it's about having like a kind of limit, right? Like, you know, and some people are pulling in like big money off of these streams. And you're just like, fucking hell, like, I don't know, it's...
Yeah, and that was the other thing, is like I didn't really have like a anything for like an idea for rewards, because I didn't want to put any like content behind a paywall.
Sure. Well, what I do with my Patreon is it literally is just $1, and it's pay what you want. So if you want to pay $1, pay $1. If you want to pay a bit more, pay a bit more. And I don't.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, you know. Because, you know, you look at some of these Patreon rewards and you just think you're charging $50 for that. It seems like a bit of a fucking stitch up to me, you know. I don't want to be involved in that.
Oh yeah. Totally. Yeah. It can be a bit bullshit sometimes.
For me, like, you know, I feel a bit called out. I know you're not trying to do that. I think the key thing for me is like, if you've got mechanisms in place that are going out of their way to take advantage of parasocial relationships, like charging $75 for a 10-minute Skype call. Like, I'm just inherently against that. I want to
totally. Yeah.
You know,
100%.
Reduce the chances of parasocial relationships forming, and I talk about it a lot on stream. And I think there's other content creators that have kind of spoken about parasocial relationships when they were smaller, and now they've gotten a lot bigger. It's just like, where's that conversation gone? You're not talking about that anymore. Yeah. I wonder why that is.
I'm saying this sometimes as the sort of person who like posts something controversial on Twitter and then watches one of my followers argue with like a chud in my mentions defending me, and I'm like, I can't be asked right now, but I'll just like all of their responses.
I think hopefully I've cultivated largely an audience of people that don't do that. But yeah, it makes me cringe when you see someone like, you know, defending their favorite streamer on social media. You're like, they don't even fucking know who you are. Like, why are you even doing that? You know?
definitely not worth it unless you actually like, say in this case, like you're not actually defending the other streamers who do it. You're just sort of like defending yourself because you kind of do it. Like you kind of do to some extent. You ask for money online, and then and you want to justify like how ethical you are about it, which is fair, right? And you're allowed to do that. And yeah, and in this case, I don't think that there's actually that much of an ethical issue, because at the end of the day, this is kind of like a no ethical consumption under capitalism, or in this case, no ethical e-begging under capitalism.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah, I like that. That's good. Okay, listen. On that note, on that roast, I think we'll wrap things up. Is there anything final points you want to say, or anything you want to shill before you go?
No, not at the moment. At some point, maybe I might do a bit more, but given that I am in like, I have such like such a packed life schedule at the moment, it's very difficult to really have anything to shill. I am just a shit poster who kind of just wants to grill, but has this like desire to still get involved in the odd little internet shit fight and like bring up some like controversial political takes. So this is my outlet for that.
Okay, cool. So yeah, at Discord Spies on Twitter, if you want to follow Discord Spies, David. Listen, thanks for joining me. It's been a great conversation. Really interesting to hear some. I tell you, the one thing I'm going to take away from this that I hadn't ever thought about before, and Rebecca even in chat commented on this as well, is the idea of how normalised women engaging in violence against men is in society. That's
totally. That's one of the really big things.
Yeah.
But like, I also think that like the reason I wanted to talk to you is like this sort of like institutional like. The problem feminists aren't the bedroom girls who don't know what they're talking about. It's it's like these sort of like baby boomer and Gen X like liberals who like run all the organizations, and they don't and they sort of like scoff at men's issues and stuff. And those are the ones I don't trust.
Yeah, sure. And sometimes there's that crossover between that and turfdom as well, right?
Yeah, totally, 100%.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm critical.
Yeah,
most people, and as long as you're like not denying that kind of thing, I'm not really like I'm not standing against you as a feminist. I'm just critical of that sort of like perpetuation of gender roles that is kind of like, like feminists also, like some feminists are also like perpetuate misogyny as well, in the same way, right? But in this case, it's perpetuating misandry. And it's that same kind of criticism. It's just like, as a community, we aren't perfect, and we have some issues. Like on the left, we have some issues, and that we need to move past them.
Yeah.
And this is just like we can be more progressive than we already are. That's all.
Yeah. Okay, great stuff. Thanks very much for joining me. I'm going to chat with my chat for a bit, and I'll have you on again soon. Listen, maybe I could do a panel on men's rights and get some people to disagree with you. That'd be fucking good content.
Get some people to actually argue against me, because I knew coming in that you were like gonna be receptive to some of the stuff I was saying.
Yeah.
And that the second I brought up evidence, you were like, oh, okay, fair enough then.
Yeah.
But like, I know there are a lot of people who would actually like want to debate on this.
Yeah.
And that'd be great. Get some real hardcore card carrying self-identified feminists on here. It'd be fucking hilarious.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, nice one. Right, I'll catch you soon. Okay.
Oh yeah, see ya.
Cheers. Bye bye.